All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the public hearing to order. This is a public hearing that has been duly noticed for the preliminary plan review of the Stetson Farm Conservation Subdivision as called for in Section 906A2. Following the rules in Section 902C2, this application proposes 10 lots and is classified as a conservation subdivision. The planning board has administrative jurisdiction over this review according to Section 902B. Following the public hearing, the planning board will be discussing and possibly voting on the preliminary plan. For this hearing, what I'll do first is I'll just have North Star summarize the application as it stands right now. We'll then give the applicant an opportunity to present the preliminary plan, and then after that, we'll open the floor for public comment. We've got a lot on our plate tonight, so I do want to try and be as efficient with the public hearing as possible. So if we could limit comments to 3 minutes, that would be great. All comments should be made to the board, not to the applicant, and then the board could ask clarifying questions to the applicant. With that, I'll have Natasha from North Star take over.
Thank you, Todd. And if I may we just do a quick roll call and acknowledge if there's any alternates sitting in making votes tonight?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. I'm Todd Mellon, co-chair.
Secretary. Brad Olson, alternate. Orion Green, co-chair.
We have a quorum, so I think we're good to go.
Thank you. And I'm Natasha Kipfer with North Star Planning, and my colleague Asher Seville is also attending the meeting tonight. And so in reviewing this application, I just wanted to help kind of provide an overview for the updates since our last meeting in June and the updates that the applicant provided, kind of the actions that are before the board this evening. And so give me just a moment to get that going. So we met last on June 17th. And since then, the applicant has provided additional materials. I will let Peter kind of walk through those materials, but we had, the board had some outstanding questions, and from the submission that was submitted ahead of this meeting on July 1st, I found that the application is complete, that the submission requirements have been met. But I did want to underscore a couple of the items that were submitted with the application and questions that were raised by the board last month. So one of the big items was having a discussion with the road commissioner, Mr. Jason Best Jr., along with different folks who are stakeholders in the application. So the CEO, Tim, myself as planner, and then also present, of course, was Jason, John from Select Board, and then Jim, the owner of the subject property, and Peter, the applicant's agent. And so at that meeting, and I believe I have it attached to my memo as exhibit, let me just confirm, exhibit F. Basically, the group discussed how we can come upon an agreement for Poland Range Road in terms of the concerns that were raised by abutters, and making sure that the conditions of the road were documented in their current status, and then that there will be ongoing visits during the construction process, and that ultimately that a bond would be secured so that monies can be identified and kept with the town so that that maintenance can be occurring as the project is unfolding. And if you'll give me just a moment, I'm going to pull that up. Bear with me. wanting to make sure I'm hitting all the high points here. So this memo that I wrote on for the June 29th, and that went before the select board, I believe it was their July 16th meeting. It was discussed a little bit, but basically, again, that memo identifies that a bond agreement needs to be finalized between the owner and the applicant's agent and the select board ultimately, that pre-construction video will be taken at the onset of the project in order to assess the existing conditions of Poland Range Road today, that periodic ride-alongs are to be conducted by the owner and the applicant's agent, and that those will occur along Poland Range Road to assess current road conditions, and that as needed, the identified excavation party, which is Eric Wentworth of ESW Excavation, they will be executing fixes along the roadway as issues arise, and that ultimately at the completion of the project, an overall road assessment will be conducted by the town and then also separately by MDOT, so the Maine Department of Transportation. And also noted finally in the memo that the parties are in agreement that Mr. Wentworth and his company will be carrying out this work, but that if that needs to change for some reason, that just the town and the owner and applicant's agent will be working together to select a third-party entity. And so I think that was a productive meeting, and that helped address one of the large concerns that we've heard from the public. And next, I'm just going to segue into some of the action items ultimately for this plan tonight. And so I did send out a revised memo that got circulated, and I believe there's some copies printed at the table over there. So I just made some updates to the conclusions of law section citing section 901A, criterion 1 through 21 within the ordinance. But ultimately, the motions that are suggested staff motions written in the memo that are before the board tonight are to make a motion regarding completeness of the application, to make a motion addressing the 3 waivers that have been requested by the applicant, and then ultimately to make a project overall motion. And I have provided some staff suggested conditions in my memo as well. I'll just quickly go over those just again to kind of help set the scene for this meeting. And those are, the first one being that part of the additional work that the town heard the concerns of the residents about wanting to make sure that the water supply is sufficient within the subject property. And so the town actually went about getting a third-party review of the hydrogeologist's report. And so some recommendations that came out of that report are noted as conditions of approval, and that is that dug wells and well points are to be prohibited, and that the proposed bedrock water supply wells are to be installed according to the Maine well drillers and pump installers rules. And third, that these be listed as notes on the final plan. And then there's also some staff suggested conditions that ties back into the performance guarantees. And so that is that prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide the following to be reviewed by the town attorney and receive select board approval for the road guarantee. And so that's what I kind of detailed through that memo and through the meeting with Mr. Best, the road commissioner. And so that bond or irrevocable letter of credit is in the form of $205,000. And then the performance guarantee, which is also standard within the regulations, which is in the approximate amount of $529,000. And this is based upon the construction cost estimate that was provided by the applicant and is included as an attachment. And then thirdly, as is also a requirement in the ordinance, that the inspection fee be equal to 2% of the cost of the required improvements, or that the fee is paid to an inspection fee equal to the estimated cost of inspection by the town engineer or consulting engineer. And those are the items that I wanted to mention, just leading into review of this item this evening. Certainly available for the board as they have questions during their discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, if you wanted to say anything, feel free.
Ready? I'll hit a number of high points here. I did, Peter Beagle, Land Design Solutions. I'm here representing applicant James Cram. I submitted a PDF of 2 subdivision plans. I'm wondering if there's a way to get that. I don't think they're part of that submission. Yeah, I added a couple notes to that. Okay, thank you. So since our last meeting, we submitted for this meeting, our submission included clarification of the traffic report, questions from the traffic engineer. We had a number of questions and we clarified answers to those questions, and those were in your package. As Natasha said, we met with town staff and went over the road stuff, and we're on board with that. We're on board with a $205,000 bond with the process. We're good with everything that was mentioned in her memo that also is part of as an attachment to our submission. You'll notice also as an attachment in our submission was a revised letter of financial capacity, which covered the amount of the $529,000 and the $205,000. So that financial capacity letter was also in your package. We resolved the road length measurement where that begins would be at the Poland Range Road right-of-way, which actually gives us a road length of 1,186 feet, takes us completely around the loop. I know I've given out a number of different lengths on that, but that would be the official length, and so we would be requesting a waiver for the 186 extra feet. We also included an email from the fire chief okaying the grass shoulders that we had requested in place of the gravel shoulders, so he was on board with that. He said as long as we're graveled or paved next to the cistern, and we have proposed a pavement along there, the same as our road. So we should be in good shape with that. We have added a note shown on this plan. I think this plan, or maybe can you go to the next? No, you had it right, the first plan. The little cloud there is lot 10 saying no, this lot will be not farther subdivided. And then on the next plan, if you would advance me one, down at the bottom there, we've included a note that says further lots are prohibited without prior approval by the Pownell Planning Board. So we've got that on there. In our memo with that submission clarified that the land trust is not, or conservation trust is not interested in parking on the Poland Range Road for the trail. There'll be a trailhead there for local people want to walk to that, but that is not a vehicular place to park. Vehicular parking will take place at the barn over on the old on Brown Road. Water supply, you folks, I believe, or the town has been given the third-party peer review by CV Mahar Engineers, who basically concurred with our findings that there is water down there. And I think picking one of their last sentences out of their report, they said the site is not likely to be concurs with the report findings that recharge the bedrock aquifer at the site is not likely to be a limiting factor for the development, at that most wells drilled in this bedrock formation are able to meet the needs of a single-family home. So I think they've concurred with our recharge numbers of 7,500 gallons over that 30 acres, and that typically you would be pulling 3,600 gallons out of there per day out of there. We had talked about the new legislation, LD 1829. We're fine, as we said in our submission, adding language to the homeowner's documents that restricts lots to containing only one principal dwelling unit. There was a discussion about how to accomplish that with new state laws coming into place, and we're happy to include that language in our homeowners documents. In our submission, we added the approval criteria and how we believe we've met the approval criteria to section 901. So that was all in your in our submission. Jim put forth and Tim put forth to the select board the name of Goddard Lane for the subdivision road. That should be going to the select board at their upcoming meeting for their review and hopefully approval. Solid waste, I created a little confusion with my memo and then email from that, but our understanding is, after speaking with town staff in Casella, that Casella will do curbside pickup on this new road after 3 homes are occupied. Up until that point, those folks would need to bring their containers down to the end of the road, and they would be picked up on the Poland Range Road. We have received our stormwater permit by rule from Maine DEP, and we anticipate the Maine Constructional General Permit will be coming in anytime now. So that's those should be all good. Again, we have the 3 waiver requests. We believe the proposed road is going to take 2 months to complete. What we're hoping for, with the concern of, well, our own schedule and concern of the Poland Range Road, is that we're hoping to receive preliminary approval tonight. We would roll right into final plans and documents, and we would submit those by the August deadline and be at the August meeting. And we would start construction. Hopefully we would get approval at the August meeting, and we would roll right into construction and be using the road at the best time of year for using that, dirt road for hauling materials, and we would be able to hit the paving deadline in November to get the base course of pavement down on our proposed road. So that's our hoped for schedule, and we'll be doing whatever we can to hopefully make that happen. We also have a proposal from SW Cole for testing of materials and site observation and compaction testing for the construction of our road. So we have that all ready to go. So that's I guess that's summary of where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. So now I'll open up the floor to public comment. Just come up to the microphone, state your name, where you live, and just try and keep comments brief.
Bill Schmidt, 19 Pine Grove Road off the Poland Range Road. And these are from, most of this is from the meeting notes that we've had in the past. From the December 22nd, 2025 Planning Board meeting. This is from the Road Commissioner. To ensure public safety and informed decision-making, I strongly recommend that the Planning Board require a professionally engineered traffic and roadway study of the Poland Range Road before granting final approval. That was December 2025. 1 month later, next Planning Board meeting, Tim, not just a traffic study, but a study of the road condition. How much traffic can it take beyond what it is taking right now? Todd, where would that come from? Tim, that is something you would request. Engineered appraisal of the road. Once they found out how many homes they will have on that side of the road, will the road condition currently handle that much more traffic? Todd, it is really important to get that done. Next meeting, February, Planning Board meeting. Tim, I sent out and asked the questions you wanted me to ask on the Stetson farm subdivision to the attorney. Can the board request a safety study? The answer is yes. To Bill's comments, we could ask for them, and we should ask for them. We should do it once we accept the initial plan. Brian, can someone actually request a road study? Tim, yes. They would need to pay for the road study. A month later, from Natasha, on the March 18th planning board meeting, it would be a full-blown kind of road study, and it would have an appropriate engineer looking at the road soil, doing compaction tests, getting data on roads widths and different sections. That would be a hands-on approach. Next meeting in May, road condition study was brought up again. The planning board had asked the road commissioner to contact the state for an evaluation of the condition of the road. Tim, he did do that, and they did not have a mechanism to do that. During the meeting in June, a road condition was brought up again. Lacking information, the planning board should request the town administrator to post an RFP for a firm to conduct an official road assessment. This is exactly what we did to the planning board required Shane Brady to do for the wetlands and drainage study. Numerous residents have discussed the condition of the road. The planning board has heard from Dan Libby, the road commissioner, Tim Gidding, the codes enforcement officer, Natasha from North Star Planning, and our planning consultant, Isabel Lee. What is the planning board waiting for? Any further delay in completing an official road condition assessment will delay the project. What is the planning board waiting for?
So right now, what we'll do is, I appreciate your comments 100%. Right now, we're taking public comment. We're going to be talking about all of these things when we actually open up the business meeting. I don't really want to get too bogged down in the public hearing because this is an opportunity. This conversation is going to go on when we start the business meeting. But I want to give folks time to ask questions because once this stops, we're starting and public comment is over.
Okay, that'll be good. You see, we've asked these same questions every planning board meeting since December. So let's try to wrap this up. Thank you.
Sure.
Russell Schmidt, 36 Poland Range Road. So if I'm to believe this, so the public comments right now, but you're going to start a meeting to discuss this, but at that point, the public won't be able to speak. Is that correct?
So right now, this is your opportunity to speak.
Correct.
To the planning board.
Correct.
After that, when the business meeting starts.
Correct.
The planning board will be deliberating.
Yep.
On the proposal.
And the public will not be able to speak at that point.
At that point, it's up to the board to allow for public comment, whether or not we've got business to get done. So whether or not you're allowed to speak at that point it's not a given. So right now.
Doesn't sound democratic, does it?
So that's the rule.
Are you sure it's the rule?
We've
Because
got
public comment would actually go on probably more than 3 minutes, and you've already put us at that. And then also now when you're discussing things in more detail, the public cannot respond to that unless you want them to. Does that sound quite right?
So this is your opportunity to make any comment that you want.
So I'll make comments. I'm actually going to I'll put in the notes that I don't think this process is being followed correctly. And I don't know if that's going to disrupt things further down the road, but I will follow up, and I've known to before.
Yeah, no, totally fair.
Do want to let you know that, again, I'm in awe that the planning board it looks almost refuses or has been told to not do this planning study. And I'm not quite sure where it's coming from, but it's starting to smell. It's looking ridiculous. Also, people just need to realize that there are 3 or 4 spots on that road. I'm going to have Jesse Peters start with a pumper truck, and I'm going to have Jason start with a triaxle and run that road. And if they don't clip each other, I want a planning board member in the passenger seats so they can see what's going on. You guys have to travel the road. It doesn't have ditches. It hasn't had ditches, and it's not built for this kind of work. There's going to be 100, just to build his driveway, there's over 100 trips in, 100 out, 200 trips just to build this driveway of triaxle trucks. That's not including dump trucks, other vehicles, cement trucks, excavation trucks. I don't think the board realizes the impact to that road. I'm begging you to take a look at it. Begging you to take a look at it. Thank you.
Good evening. Kate Day, 143 Poland Range Road. I'm speaking as a resident and a butter to Stetson Farm project. I completely agree with what Bill and Rusty Schmidt have said. I'm not satisfied with whether anybody has even taken a drive, particularly in the section of road from beyond where Stetson Farm Road goes in from Route 9 to 136. And I don't think there's been sufficient study to the intersection with 136. And this is all safety-related concerns. The width of the road, I don't think, is legally wide enough as it passes by my neighbor's house. There are numerous blind spots due to the hills, and it's a safety concern. And I agree that I'm not satisfied with whatever traffic study. You guys are talking a lot about the condition of the road, and you're talking about the bond to help with the condition of the road. That is a concern, but safety is a big concern as well. Okay, and I don't feel like that's really been addressed. Thank you. Is there also a question? I'm assuming there is not another site walk? Because when we did a site walk, it was sort of for a different plan.
I don't,
That's just a question I have.
not sure.
Hi, I'm Susan Pye. I live at 291 Libby Road, but I'm in a butter because I own a large lot of property across from the subject property. I believe that we've probably come to a point where this is satisfactory, and I commend you for making the adjustments that you've made because I think it's the right thing to do versus the 40. I know the road is an issue, but like was made, I think 2 meetings ago, I think Mercedes made the point. I live on Libby Road. There have been 5 houses that have been put on there in the last few years. So I see the trucks come through. I ride my horses there. As a resident and also from the town perspective, you know, I know it was talked about that legal action could be taken if we don't allow something. They are a taxpayer and we have to follow the planning board rules. So as a resident and in a butter, I'm satisfied with what they've come to terms with.
Do we have any other comments?
Allison Purrington. I am also in a butter, 261 Poland Range Road. I do have an issue with the road. Much like right now, we've just put a layer of dirt on top. It's lipstick on a pig. You really need to pay attention. I also think there should be another public walk. The one in January, there was not any real guidance as to where the entrance would be for Poland Range Road. That should have been addressed. Or it should be marked out as to where it is going to be. Thank you.
Any other comments at all? Since we do have a couple of minutes, I don't think, because there is a big concern about this, and I don't even know if it's appropriate to do this in a public hearing, but I feel that it is worthwhile to just have an open conversation right now, a little bit about the road and the planning board's thought process. I'm going to disregard any comments about inappropriate actions or something stinks. We'll just ignore that. But just as one resident spoke of, development is happening and it's going to happen. And James Cram has a right to develop his land. Our role is to make sure that the development proceeds according to the ordinances. It is not our job to say that this is a good plan or a bad plan. Our job is to make sure it's following the ordinances. We've come to an agreement right now, which we will be discussing further about the road, that helps to maintain the status of the road as it is. But it's not about the condition of the road as is not necessarily the concern of the board. It's maintained, that's a concern of the town. And our plan would be that this development doesn't make that worse. So if anybody else wants to, if you guys want to get up and make another comment, feel free. Again, we're going to be, I'm not trying to get into an argument at all
Oh,
right
no,
now.
definitely not.
I'm just
Oh.
giving you an opportunity to chat.
Yeah.
And then we'll be cutting this short a little bit, but feel free.
It is your responsibility to make sure that that road will be capable of supporting the additional traffic. You can look, I can give you the state
So-
statute, which
So
is.
this
statutes.
is what I'm pointing out is if it's not this, it's 10 single lots. If it's, so you're not stopping development on.
No, and we shouldn't stop development. We should actually have the town, the planning board could request that the town have a bond, we should have a bond, maybe it's $1 million to $4 million to start improving these roads so they can support development. Right now, if the road was going to be, if this was going to be built on the Brown Road, that's a very stable road. He would have been building 2 years, 6 months ago.
That's
This is not a,
the
this
select
is-
board then.
yeah. But don't put the cart before the horse. Don't put the development in and then see about building the road.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to imply, and I didn't mean to reiterate, and I think throughout my meetings, I think he's done a fabulous job. I want to commend you guys on the whole development. I just think that, like my brother had mentioned, you have the cart before the horse here. And if Walmart wanted to put a distribution center there, at that point, no one would look at infrastructure is what you're saying. You're saying the only thing Walmart says, yeah, we can put a factory there or put a warehouse there. And you just walk away from that. I really don't think that was the intent of the planning board. And I've been on the planning board and we never looked at it that way. So I'm a little surprised. And if that's true, I guess you're dumping this back on the select board, which I don't know if the select board has any clout in making this happen. But you do see the frustration in the town where we've requested 4 times and also people that work within the town have requested, but it's not happening. So I think there's something more there. So hopefully it'll come out why you've decided not to do a traffic study, and hopefully it'll come out tonight why you haven't decided to do a safety study. Because if it's not, I'll be asking the planning board or the selectmen to get that information for me. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
As an example, I have not seen a little traffic counter across the road since the time that this proposal initially was presented. So, I would expect to see maybe like a traffic counter saying how many trips are happening right now to get a sense for what the road is able to sustain, or somebody to measure the parts of the road that are potentially too narrow. Just things like that just haven't happened. So that's kind of part of the reason why I say I'm not satisfied, because we're just kind of wondering, I think we thought that there was going to be a determination whether that was the responsibility of the planning board or the responsibility of the person that wants to develop the land. And I don't know if that's, going to cost a lot of money or not a lot of money, but just to have sort of no traffic study having happened, as a butters, you sort of wonder what's going on. So they're just going to kind of build it anyway without doing that. So.
Okay. So if there's no further comment, I will close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and we will start the business portion. John, my understanding is you need to do this because we're voting on officers? Okay. Do you want to? We're ready. I mean, this is the appropriate time right at the start. How do you want to do it? All right, let's do it.
Jonathan Morris, and I am the chairperson for the Pownell Board of Select Board, and I am taking nominations for the chair of the planning board. The planning board will now just have a chair and a vice chair. So this position will be for the chair of the planning board. Is there any nomination before the board? Marcia,
Nominate Todd Milne.
you say your name.
This is Marcia Bowen. I nominate Todd Milne.
Is there a second to Marcia Bowen's?
Orion seconds.
Orion Beam seconds the motion. Are there any other nominations for the chair of the planning board? Seeing none, I'll close nominations. All in favor for Todd Mellon to be chairperson of the planning board, raise your hand.
I vote for myself.
Yes, you can. Yeah. Okay. So move. Next nomination is for vice chairman of the planning board. I'll entertain nominations for that.
I would suggest that we nominate Mercedes.
What's Mercedes' last name?
Can we nominate her if she's not here?
You certainly can.
I did ask her to nominate.
So is there a second to,
Orion second.
so, sorry, I'm stumbling with the name. So Mercedes Poor Pavetti has been nominated for vice chair of the planning board and been seconded by Orion Breen. Are there any other nominations for that position? Seeing none, I'll close nominations. All in favor of Mercedes Poor Pavetti, please raise a hand. All opposed? Mercedes Poor Pavetti is now vice chair of the planning board. I'll now accept nominations for secretary of the planning board.
Going to nominate Marcia Bowden.
Marcia Bowen has been nominated. Is there a second?
Orion seconds.
Orion Beam seconds. Is there any other nomination or? Hope that's not a dissent. Are there any other nominations for the secretary of the planning board? Seeing none, I'll close the nominations. All in favor of Marcia Bowen? Opposed? Marcia Bowen is now secretary of the planning board. I now pass back baton to
You, I think. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with approval of the June 17, 2026 meeting minutes. Are there any corrections or changes that need to be made? None. I move that we accept the meeting minutes as written. All in favor? Yeah, I don't think we do either. We do have a couple old business items that I would like to get to before we move back into the Stetson Farm preliminary plan discussion. So first up would be Freeport Diesel and Marine. Are they here? Yep, perfect. See, did I have you? So I'll just let you take things from here.
Freeport, Diesel and Marine has submitted an application to resume business or have a new business at the 614 Elmwood Road. It's a business that repairs marine engines, and the business is very similar to what was there before in terms of its footprint, with the exception of boat storage outside the building. The first thing we had to do is make sure that the business was a permitted use in the area, and we made that assessment. And then it was under the industry and manufacturing activities. So there's no change in use. And the second order of business is we went back in time, and this was a special exemption that had 4 conditions. So one of the things we'll be talking about tonight are those 4 conditions that were under the original special exemption. We had a site walk and a public hearing on June 17th. And that was a very productive meeting because we talked about boat storage that would be reasonable for the business as well as for fire safety and protection. And so as a result of that, we asked for a plan with a sketch plan with the storage clearly marked on it, which we have received. And we do have approval from the fire chief. I don't think there were any comments and during the public hearing that there were no objections. So I think the next thing we have to do is decide if the application is complete with the plan, the sketch plan with the storage clearly marked.
Yep. So do you want to,
vote on that first and then
Yeah.
go for the conditions?
yeah, why don't we go ahead and you can go ahead and make the motion to see for the complete application, if you'd like.
So I move that we find the amended site plan application for Freeport Diesel Marine located on tax map 9 lot 2-01 complete with regard to the submission requirements.
Is there any discussion on that? Yes, sorry, I second. Any discussion? Tim, did you have any concerns about the submissions?
No, I do not.
Natasha?
No, I do not.
Any other? All in favor of the motion? Motion passes.
So the next, I'll just refer to the 4 original conditions. Do you want to go through them one by one, vote on them?
What is,
Yes, that's what it says. So the first condition is the building to be constructed be of single story and less than 5,000 square feet in size. The building is currently 10,568 square feet. So I think that first condition should be amended to say the building, hold on one second. The building is to remain a single story as constructed and be no more than 10,568 square feet in size. So that would be condition number 1. You see this? You see this?
no, I just want to, piece of paper to take some notes. And then condition number 2.
Condition number 2, vegetative cover on the site shall be retained to the maximum extent possible. And we discussed this on our site walk, and the vegetation will remain the same. And it's going to, and the abutters that were present were content with that. So condition number 3, the driveway be of such a size that all vehicles are able to turn around on the site and that no vehicles will be required to back off of or onto Elmwood Road. And that condition would stay the same. The 4th condition is a little more complicated. Originally, it read, the activity on the site be limited to light manufacturing of the type currently performed by WA Machine Company and not requiring the use of toxic materials or outside storage of inputs, products, or waste. So keeping with the intent of that ordinance, but being a little more specific, we're recommending, and this was what we'll be voting on, the activity on the site is limited to light manufacturing or light industrial use, not requiring the use of toxic materials or outside storage of inputs, products, or wastes, other than the storage of vessels as depicted in the sketch plan approved and signed by the planning board at their July 22nd, 2006 meeting, which will be the site plan that we received for today's meeting. At this point, I think any discussion? Well, maybe we should make the motion.
Well, I've got a question for Natasha where, how do we amend the amended site plan?
Just to clarify, do you mean in your motion?
Well, in the motion or just, what's the proper way? Can we just do it with a motion?
Yes.
As Marcia had talked about?
Right, so thank you. In my memo, I had suggested, just due to the nature of this application, which Marcia gave the history of being that this was previously in 1989 approved with the BOA, that it's important to review and announce the status of each of these original conditions of approval with this approval. So I think that has been met. And so then I would suggest on page 2, under the second suggested motion, that you read through it, that you do, that you say, following in the planner memo dated July 22nd, 2026, as amended at the planning board meeting, because in this meeting, you provided additional findings by editing those conditions. So you add that verbiage. And then you read through each of those 4 conditions as revised today so that that is in the record. And then that would allow for this amended site plan. And also it would amend those existing conditions. And I would suggest that if this is approved this evening, that the applicants, when they provide, I know they provided, thank you, the updated site plan, that these modified conditions be printed on that modified site plan, just so that's on the record. And then that is what the board can ultimately sign and have on the record. Thank you.
So if I have this correct, I'm going to read through the new conditions that will allow approval of this amended site plan.
Yes, and sorry, I did also want to note that under the conclusions of law, which goes on to page 3 of the memo, this is the criteria in the ordinance under section 807. So that's the criterion standards of the site plan review. I think it would be good for the board to have a brief discussion. There's 9 points there about each of them. And then when you, prior to you making this full motion, that you go through each of those and delineate if those will or will not be adhered to. Thank you.
We should go right to those
Yeah.
criteria first.
Let's do that.
Okay. So I'm going to go through the conclusions of law, and I think because this, there's normally a site plan is involving construction, but since the site's already constructed and it has been used, there's a lot of these that are not germane. So the ones that I'm going to discuss here that Natasha has provided relates solely to the change in business use. So starting with number 1, the proposed project will or will not define, soften, or screen the appearance of off-site parking areas or other uses from the public right-of-way, and will minimize the encroachment of proposed use on neighboring land uses. And I'm just going to interject my own thoughts that it will not, because they're going to keep all the existing vegetation and buffers.
Right, I agree with that. So, Natasha, and just to clarify for me, do we, how is it best to put these into the record? Am I gonna make a motion, or one of us will make a motion that, say for number 1, the proposed project will not define, soften, or screen the appearance, or however we choose to word it, and then we vote on that, and then we move to the next one?
I think I would suggest the following process for ease is that kind of how we've started. Marcia has spoke to the nature of the item, so I think we should do that for all 9, and then I think it would be appropriate for then one representative, so Marcia, if that's you, to read then succinctly through all 9 with indicating whether it's a will or a will not. And then going to that motion with my suggestion of saying as amended at the planning board, then it will be documented that those findings have been made on the record. And I think that would be the most logical and easiest for kind of everyone to follow. And if you think about it, this board decision is kind of a straw poll, if you will, of going through those 9 criteria and being able to make findings on them. Thank you.
So we'll roll all this into, this all then becomes part of the motion to approve.
Right, because of that additional language of amended at the planning board.
Okay.
Thank you.
We go through the conditions and finalize those,
So I think we should go through each of these conclusions of law
then go back.
and then go back and just read into the record those 4 conditions as you've already discussed. Certainly, if the board wants to have more discussion about them, welcome you to have that. But that would be my suggested kind of protocol to make a little bit confusing process a little bit more clear.
Okay. All right, so moving ahead to number 2, the proposed project will or will not include adequate buffers designed to minimize any potential adverse impacts or nuisances of the site from adjacent areas. And that feeds into number 1. We talked at the site walk about maintaining all the vegetation. Any comments about that?
Yep, I agree with that.
Number 3, the proposed project will or will not minimize any adverse environmental impacts. And we did discuss this, and also the use of toxic, adherence to the toxic materials ordinance. There was a spill plan developed, and because of the nature of the contained aspect of this, of working in engines, there's probably a spill is small, and they're not going to be affecting any natural resources. They're going to stay in the same footprint. So that, I think, addresses the adverse environmental impacts.
Right.
The site will or will not be maintained and left each day in a safe and sanitary manner. The application has addressed that in terms of being adherent to clean and tidy procedures in the application. Proposed site layout will or will not ensure that vehicular and pedestrian traffic conditions do not exceed reasonable limits for the neighborhood. We've talked a lot about the amount of traffic in and out, the delivery trucks and so on, and it would be, if anything, less, but very, very small. And the fact that they are not going to be backing in or out Elmwood Drive is also, Elmwood Road is also important. So that's my feeling on that.
Mm-hmm.
The layout and design of all means of vehicular and pedestrian circulation will or will not detract from the proposed site and neighboring properties. I think that follows what I was just discussing. proposed site will or will not provide adequate lighting to ensure safe movement of persons and vehicles for security purposes. We talked about adhering to the light ordinance. We also, I think they may have some lighting that lights up if there's personnel in the back at night, but there's not going to be additional lighting, but there's going to be call that motion detecting lighting to security light in terms of safety, safe movement of people. The proposed site will or will not meet sign specifications. The proponent has said they will adhere to our sign ordinance. And the project will or will not include adequate and safe utilities that have minimal impact on surrounding properties. I think the utilities will be the same, and we talked a little bit about garbage disposal and how they'll be using Casella and a dumpster, and it will be wherever they decide to put it.
Okay. So is there any further discussion? I agree with all Marcia's points on that. Ryan, do you have anything to add at all?
Nope.
Okay. So I think for the record, if I heard Natasha correctly, Marcia, why don't you read through as we agreed on each one of those points to make it part of the record?
Okay, will do. Condition number 1, and this will be different. The building is to remain a single.
Nope, sorry, not there. We're gonna go
Oh,
back to conclusions of law,
sorry.
and I want you to read each one of those points with
The right, yeah.
the right will or will
Okay.
not. Thank you.
Number 1, the proposed project will not define, soften, or screen the appearance of off-street parking areas or other uses from the public right-of-way and will minimize the encroachment of proposed use on neighboring land uses. The proposed project will include adequate buffers designed to minimize any potential adverse impacts or nuisances of the site from adjacent areas. The proposed project will minimize any adverse environmental impacts. The site will be maintained and left each day in a safe and sanitary manner. The proposed site layout will ensure that vehicular and pedestrian traffic conditions do not exceed reasonable limits for the neighborhood. The layout and design of all means of vehicular and pedestrian circulation will not detract from the proposed site and neighboring properties. The proposed site will provide adequate lighting to ensure safe movement of persons and vehicles for security purposes. The proposed site will meet sign specifications. The project will include adequate and safe utilities that have minimal impact on surrounding properties.
Todd, may I make a quick comment?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think just for clarification, I think I heard you say will not for number 1, but I think maybe you meant will, because as we discussed in the findings, there's not going to be any changes and the parking is going to remain in the same area. Did I mishear? Okay.
Proposed project
Will.
define, soften, or screen the appearance of off-site parking areas or other uses from the public right-of-way, and will minimize encroachment of proposed use on the neighboring land uses. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marcia.
Okay, so after going through conclusions of law, I think we can go back and take a vote on whether to approve with conditions, or deny the application.
Like me to read those again?
Yeah, so now I would like for you to make a motion including the changes to the conditions as we talked about earlier.
Okay, so I move that we approve with conditions the amended site plan application for Freeport Diesel Marine located at tax map 9, lot 2-01, based on the application materials, plan sets, applicant testimony, and the findings of fact and conclusions of law in the planner memo dated July 22nd, 2026, with modifications as detailed in the following conditions of approval. Number one, the building is to remain a single story as constructed and be no more than 10,568 square feet in size. Vegetative cover on the site be retained to the maximum extent possible. The driveway be of such a size that all vehicles are able to turn around on the site. And that no vehicles be required to back off or onto Elmwood Road. Back off of or on to Elmwood Road. The activity on the site be limited to light manufacturing or light industrial use, not requiring the uses of toxic materials or outside storage of inputs, products, or wastes, other than the storage of vessels as depicted in the sketch plan approved and signed by the planning board at their July 22nd, 2026 meeting.
As a point of order, if I may, I don't think I heard this, Marcia, but after notation of the planner memo dated July 22nd, 2026, if you could also incorporate, and I think you can do this post reading that, but as amended at the planning board meeting.
With you want me to read the whole motion again?
I think if you just read the motion, we have all the conditions already now kind of sealed in.
To approve with conditions as outlined previously, the amended site plan application for Freeport Diesel and Marine located at tax map 9, lot 2-01, based on the application materials, plan sets, applicant testimony, and the findings of fact, conclusions of law in the planner memo dated July 22nd, 2026.
As amended at this planning board meeting.
As amended at this planning board meeting, July 22nd, 2026, with modifications as detailed in the conditions of approval.
I second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. It's the next step for Freeport Diesel Marine.
They're going to give us a new plan with
The
conditions
Yeah.
for us to sign.
okay.
You need a second one? You need a second one? I've got one here. We should have two. And then you keep the one that's signed and one gets filed. Registry of Deeds. You want a second one?
We don't need to sign anything right now. It needed
Yeah.
with the conditions. So
If I may, I would just suggest that once the minutes come out of the meeting, we can make sure, because we want to have the conditions noted on the plan be what was read into the record tonight. I'll make sure I follow up with you and provide that by email, and so that you can have that wording to put on the plan. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the Harrisons and the amended subdivision application. Ryan, I'll let you take over.
Sure, we have a minor subdivision application for Harrison for a single-family home and a road to connect that. And we've had a lot of discussions about the road and what it should be based upon ordinances. And the applicant has asked for the road to be a waiver for the road to be 16 feet instead of 20 feet wide. And the Fire Chief Peters said that that was acceptable as long as it remains a single family on that, but that if it was, if for some reason more housing was added, that road would have to be widened and would have to come back to the planning board as well, I believe. Do you want me to walk through the conclusions of law?
Let's first start with whether or not we feel that the application is complete.
Sure.
I believe it's North Star, their opinion that the application is complete. Tim, would you agree with that?
I agree.
Okay. So if, Orion, if you want to make a motion.
Yep.
If I may I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to note, in addition to what Co-Chair Orion said, that there were a good amount of updates since the last meeting. And so just to highlight that for the board and the public, there were some outstanding questions in the staff memo that Michelle and Todd kindly addressed with this resubmission. And they also submitted the revised site plan. It's also, I just wanted to clarify my comment about the site walk. It was actually decided at the previous meeting, so our June meeting, that for this type of application, a site walk is not needed. And then also to clarify that the ordinance also does not require a public hearing for minor subdivision. Reiterating what Orion said, that we did get feedback from the road commissioner about the proposed private way. And then in my suggested conditions in the memo, I have noted, and I just, I know we're going to go through them, but I had suggested some revisions to the final plan that be made by the surveyor. And then also in keeping with having a performance guarantee, I did have some language, standard language, recommending that. And I just wanted to note on the record that I did receive from the applicant, Michelle, the budgetary cost estimate for the road construction, which equaled $41,400, and then also notation of that 2%. So if the board is agreeable, I think it might be helpful just to have Michelle or Todd comment to that. But those were just the items that I wanted to note for the record. And then I also wanted to note that for the conclusions of law, that we would be making sure that we're going through 901A and the criterion 1 through 21. This is actually similar to the criterion that is within the Stetson Farm application. And I do think that even though it is a lot of back and forth, that we kind of follow the same process that we went through with the diesel, Freeport Diesel and Marine, where findings are made about those conclusions on the record, and that we kind of go through them. I know there's 21 of them, but hopefully we can go through that quickly, because that is in the ordinance. And perhaps
I only have 14 in these memos.
You'll have to go and look at the actual ordinance itself under 901.
And so that would be my suggestion, to follow the process. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, Orion, why don't we make a motion on the completeness of the application, and then we can walk through the next bits.
Sure. I motion to find the amended minor plan subdivision plan application for the amended Roscoe Bigelow subdivision located at tax map 7 lot 35-01 complete in regard to the submission requirements.
I second that. Any discussion? No? And Tasha, everything looks good?
Everything looks good. I apologize. I just omitted, for this application, there is one waiver request. So you'll see, my second suggested motion, is regards to the waiver request. And then that is typical to review that as a motion before we get into the main motion as it were of, approving the project if the board
Got it.
speaks to do that.
All in favor of the motion? Motion passes. Yeah, so Orion, if you want to go on to the waiver?
You want me to do a motion for it?
No, let's, why don't we?
Can we just read the suggestion?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Suggested motion is to waive or do not waive the geometric standard upon the public and private road ordinances, section 16, appendix A, item 2, wherein the minimum width pavement is 20 feet for minor dead-end street, 600 feet or less, but 16 feet is allowed. Do we want any clarifying language on that?
Yeah,
If I may, thank you. So I do suggest to the board that they indicate on the record why relief from the standard shall be granted. And then you can take account on the motion itself.
so, so why do we, that was actually going to be my question, is why do we feel that it's okay to reduce the road width? It is a question for the board. Right. And my understanding is, if in the future, if this road became a part of a bigger subdivision, that would then have to come before the board anyway, and we could reevaluate at that time whether that road would be adequate to meet whatever amended subdivision would be at that time. Is that correct?
Thank you. Yes. So if there is any alteration to this amended minor subdivision in the future, or there is a proposal for a future major subdivision, i.e. in Pownell, a conservation subdivision, that the subject property owners would be required to come back per the ordinance before the board. So I would agree with that. Thank you.
Any other comment? All in favor of the, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I did see it written multiple ways, so maybe that's why I put it as one word. But if maybe we could get that clarified on the record. I don't believe so, but let me pull that up while we're having additional discussion.
No. It's not marked as Todd explained that if any further divisions have to come back to the planning board.
Okay, so getting back to the motion, Orion, why don't you read that one more time?
Suggestion motion is to waive the geometric standard under the public and private road ordinance.
Sorry, I'm gonna have you, you're making the motion.
I motion
Thank you.
to waive the geometric standard under the public and private road ordinance, section 16, appendix A, item 2, wherein the minimum width pavement is 20 feet for a minor dead-end street, 600 feet or less, but 16 feet is allowed.
I second. All in favor? Motion passes. So now we'll just walk through the findings of fact and the conclusions of law.
So, finding of facts. In approving a subdivision, the board uses the criteria 901A before granting approval. However, as this application scope includes no new lots nor any lot line adjustment and only provides for a new private way to provide access to an existing non-conforming lot of record, the criteria 901A 1 through 14, should I say 1 through 21?
Yes.
Are wholly met according to the ordinance requirements.
Okay. And let's go through each one. To the folks in the audience, we're just trying to make this planning board meeting as boring as possible. Apologize. So yeah, go ahead and go through
Sure.
each one.
Conclusions of law 901A, purpose and review criteria subdivision. In approving a subdivision, the board shall consider the following criteria before granting approval. 1, the proposed subdivision will or will not result in undue water or air pollution. Do you want me to say personally that I think it will not because it is just a single family home?
Agreed.
2, the proposed subdivision will have sufficient water available for the reasonably foreseeable needs of the subdivision. I believe that is a will have sufficient water. The proposed subdivision will or will not cause an unreasonable burden on an existing water supply. Based upon the application, I believe it will not. 4,
Orion,
yeah,
I apologize, but if I may just have you read from the ordinance,
sure.
the language. There were some updates to the ordinance.
Yeah.
And then we're just looking at 1 through 21.
Sounds good.
Thank you, sorry.
No problem. Number 3 was water supply in the ordinance. Number 4, will or will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or reduction in the capacity of the land to hold water, so the dangerous or unhealthy condition may result. It looks like based on application, it would be a will not cause. Will or will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion or unsafe conditions with respect to use of the highways or public roads existing or proposed. That looks like a will not. Will or will not provide for adequate solid and sewage waste disposal. That looks like a will. Number 7, will or will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of a municipality to dispose of solid waste and sewage if municipal services are to be utilized. I believe that is a will. Number 8, will or will not place an unreasonable burden on the ability of the local government to provide municipal or government services. I believe that's a will not. Number 9, will or will not have an undue adverse effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area, aesthetics, historic sites, or rare and irreplaceable natural areas. I believe that's a will not. 10, is or is not in conformance with the duly adopted subdivision regulation or ordinance, comprehensive plan, development plan, or land use plan, if any. I believe that is in conformance. 11, the subdivider has or has not adequate financial and technical capacity to meet the above stated standards. I believe if they have adequate. 12, whether situated in whole or in part within 250 feet of any pond, lake, river, or tidal waters, will or will not adversely affect the quality of such body of water or unreasonably affect the shoreline of such body of water. I believe that's a will not. 13, based on the Federal Emergency Management Agency's flood boundary and floodway maps and flood insurance rate maps and information presented by the applicant where the subdivision is in a flood prone area. If the subdivision or any part of it is in such an area, the subdivider shall determine the 100-year foot elevation and flood hazard boundaries within the subdivision. The proposed subdivision plan must include a condition of a plan approval requiring that principal structures in the subdivision will be constructed with their lowest floor, including the basement, at least 1 foot above the 100-year flood elevation. I don't know what the will or will not is on that statement.
What? Yeah.
14, all freshwater wetlands within the proposed subdivision have or have not been identified on any map submitted as part of the application, regardless of the size of these wetlands. Any mapping of freshwater wetlands may be done with the help of the local soil and water conservation district. They have been.
And if I may, Orion, I'll just state on the record that the subject property for this application is quite a large property, and the section of the property, I don't know if we can pull the plan up by chance, but it was decided at a previous meeting that the delineation, well, A, is not required for a minor subdivision of the whole subject property, but 2, that the private way is on the plan west of the subject property, and so the entire property does not need to be delineated. And I will just comment that a lot of these additional items are not going to be applicable, because as we discussed and as you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, as you read my suggested findings from the memo into the record, that the scope of this application is really substantive about building that private way to serve one lot. So I think it would be appropriate to say, as we walk through these additional ordinance details, that if it's not or is applicable, I think that would be appropriate. Thank you.
I was going to ask that too.
Yeah, you can see this is where the development is, and they've mapped up this area. This lot is very large and is not impacted by this house here, so we didn't ask that they map out every wetland in this area not affected by what they're trying to do.
So as Orion works through this, can he just say, example number 15 is not applicable?
Yes. Sorry, yes, I think that's appropriate, and I think we have the ordinance in front of us, and I think it would be sufficient to say 901A, pardon me, 901B, item 15 is not applicable, just to help reduce some of the time here. And we are looking directly at the ordinance, and a lot of these are quite verbose. So I think that would be appropriate, and we would be making the appropriate findings on the record. Thank you.
So Orion, if you feel that it's not applicable, you can just use the wording that 901B 15 is not applicable.
Okay. Do you want me to read it and say it's not applicable, or just say it's not applicable? Okay.
That's fine. Can we?
I think that's fine. I would just open it up that, there's certainly allowance for board discussion. So if anyone else, from the board would like to make comment, yes.
Okay, thank you.
16, any river, stream, or brook within or abutting the proposed subdivision has been identified on any maps submitted as part of the application. For purpose of this section, river, stream, or brook has the same meaning as in Title 38, Section 48B, subsection 9. So I'd see that has been, not has not been. 17, the proposed subdivision will or will not provide for adequate stormwater. I believe that's will. 18, if any lots in the proposed subdivision have shore frontage on a river, stream, brook, great pond, or coastal wetland as these features are defined in Title 38, Section 48B, none of the lots created within the subdivision have or have not a lot depth to shore frontage ratio greater than 5:1. They have a lot depth, if that's applicable. 19, the long-term cumulative effect of the proposed subdivision will or will not unreasonably increase a great pond's phosphorus concentration during the construction phase and life of the proposed subdivision. Will not. For any proposed subdivision that crosses municipal boundaries, the proposed subdivision will or will not cause unreasonable traffic congestion or unsafe conditions with respect to the use of existing public ways in an adjoining municipality in which part of the subdivision is located. It will not.
So it's not applicable.
Not applicable. For 21, timber on the parcel land being subdivided has or has not been harvested in violation of rules adopted pursuant to Title 12, Section 8869, subsection 14, if a violation of rules adopted by the Maine Forest Service to substantially eliminate the liquidation harvesting has occurred, the planning board must determine prior to granting approval. Do I need to read all this paragraph? Okay. I'd say it has not been harvested. In violation of rules. All right. So there's 21.
Okay.
Do we want to?
Give me one.
Yep.
Is there any portion of the property that's in a FEMA flood zone?
Yes, I agree with Tim, but as we've already discussed on the record, the application has not been required to delineate the entire subject property because of the size and because of where this private way construction is going to be. So I would say acknowledge it, but also say that this is not applicable for this application. And if I might suggest, I know you're following through on this, but if I might suggest that before we go through the third suggested motion, it may be beneficial to confirm with the applicant that these conditions, see if they have feedback about the suggested conditions. And then also, as a reminder, when we go through that motion, we are going to add that same verbiage as before, as amended at the planning board meeting. Thank you.
So, did the applicant have anything to add at this point? You guys are good? So, we'll roll, we'll roll quickly back through those. Is this correct? With the proper verbiage?
I think that
Or have we done?
we did that. We noted it into the record, and as long as with the motion, we say as amended at the planning board meeting on the date, and then, but we will want to go through the conditions of approval as suggested, I think, on page 2 of the memo.
Okay. The only, and I'm sure it's there, I didn't see it, I was just looking for it. Subdivider has adequate financial technical capacity to meet the stated standards. There was something in the application that met that requirement.
I need a moment to pull up that initial application. Or,
Yeah, please.
perfect.
Michelle Harrison, 185 Hodgson Road. It was never requested to do a financial capacity letter. I thought that only was applicable to the old major subdivision, or also known as the new conservation subdivision. But it's not a problem. I can provide it tomorrow, but also here's 3 checks with the road, the 2%, and the $1,000. So they're all here. You can take them tonight.
Okay. So as long as, that was the only question I really had about any of those conditions, and if the board's happy with that, then I think we can move to the vote.
You want me to make the motion?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I motion to approve with conditions the amended minor subdivision plan application for the amended Roscoe Bigelow subdivision located at tax map 7 lot 35-01 based on the application materials plan sets, applicant testimony, and the findings of facts and conclusion of law in the planner memo dated July 22nd, 2026, as amended at this planning board meeting, July 22nd, 2026, with the following conditions of approval. 1, revise the final plan to show A, correct tax map and lot numbers for all Roscoe Bigelow subdivision parcels. B, current ownership for all abutting lots per the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds record. C, add a note to the plan noting the waiver request approval. 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide the following to be reviewed by the town attorney and receive select board approval for A, a performance guarantee based upon a construction cost estimate to be provided by the applicant. B, the inspection fee equal to 2% of the cost of the required improvements, or pay an inspection fee equal to the estimated cost of inspection by the town engineer or consulting engineer. C, the form of these funds shall be provided through an irrevocable letter of credit, a bond, or in cash.
Did we get the bit that you wanted to get in? Perfect. I second the motion. Any further discussion?
Can I?
Yes, absolutely.
This, number 2 is not in the, I could not find it in the minor subdivision. The financial requirements.
Number 2,
Yes.
I did,
it's right
You did? Okay.
right there.
so I would say that in 901 A and B, which is the general requirements for a subdivision, that number 11 does refer to financial capacity, but this is also the staff suggested process. So of course, the board may have different feelings about this, but because there is a construction of the private way, and because part of the whole rationale of a performance guarantee is if for some certain reason, even if not intended, that construction, road construction, and all of the all of the following details associated with it is not able to be completed, that the town does not find itself in a position that there's an incomplete project. And so that is why I have that suggestion of the PG. I would say that is typical in communities. But of course, this is at the discretion of the board. Thank you.
I don't disagree with that, but I would like to point out that to my knowledge, and I look back through a few of these, that we did not require this from minor subdivisions before.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Tim is saying. It's no problem. We're happy to do it. I just would like to see consistency going forward with it, but all prior subdivisions of less than 5 lots in this town has never had a performance guarantee. And I feel
Yeah.
very confident saying that.
Yeah, that's fine, but what we're looking at is that may have not been the correct way to follow the ordinance because it's clearly under 901.
Are you looking at page
11.
87?
What's that?
What page is that on, 87
It's,
116.
and 16? Okay.
yeah, so
No,
it's-
and I'm just saying it's fine. I'm just letting you know the history of it, and then just if we could be consistent going forward.
so what we're doing, whether it's been done in the past or not,
Mhm.
it's the ordinance. And what we're doing is following the ordinance. So it's clearly says that. So,
I have checks here, not a
Yeah.
problem.
yeah, so it's not a
Yeah,
problem.
just follow it for everybody, that's all.
Yeah, so it's not a problem. If it's not a problem, it's not a problem.
Yeah, just follow it for everybody.
Okay. Any further discussion? Did we want to, no need to make any changes to the motion? Anybody? No?
If the applicant believes they could provide the performance guarantee and that we want to make sure we're doing that for every minor subdivision going forward, then I'm fine with going forward as is.
All in favor of the motion as read? Motion passes. Okay. So next steps for the applicant?
So based upon the conditions of approval, before a final plan can be signed, there are those corrections that need to take place based on the motion 1A, B, and C. And myself and/or Tim can review and make sure those those items have been addressed on the final plan so that it's ready for the board to sign it. And then we would want to go about the appropriate process for the performance guarantee, which is, it does need to be reviewed by the town attorney and receive select board approval, is my understanding. So that would be my suggestion moving forward. And thank you.
Did the applicant have any questions?
I believe the maps have all been updated. So is there a reason we can't sign them?
If I may, Todd?
Yes. Absolutely.
So, and it might be helpful, Orion, do you mind zooming in on the subject property? Thank you. So if you zoom in where it says Lot 2, kind of in the center.
Yeah.
When you have a moment, thank you. So we just want that this plan show what is in alignment with what is recorded in the CCRD. And so on this plan, there is identification of Lot 1, Lot 2, but the subject property is tax map 7, Lot 3501. It shouldn't be Lot 2 because we need to demonstrate that this is the parent parcel of an existing minor subdivision. And so that needs to be reflected there. This is the data that is with the Cumberland County Registry of Deeds. And then for Lot 1, I understand the rationale for the surveyor to want to delineate Lot 1, Lot 2. they're welcome to put that in parentheses, but the plan should reflect what is on record. So I think that is important. And also, Michelle, we can review this with Wayne or with you, just to provide that extra detail. And so lot 1, I believe it is the second iteration of that parent parcel. So again, tax map 7, lot 35 dash 02. We'll need to clarify that. And then north, plan north, that is also part of the original subdivision, and that needs to be noted with that tax map lot and correct parent and child parcel numbers. And then also, the current ownership needs to be reflected within the subject property because that's not noted there. And then also with the abutting subject property, which is right now, doesn't indicate the ownership. And also the plan needs to show the waiver that was approved this evening on the plan. I understand this is a little vague when we're verbally talking about it, so I'm absolutely happy to provide this in writing and make it very clear.
With the exception of the waiver that was approved tonight, I just don't understand why these weren't caught on the previous plans, because we had a list of changes for these plans. I just wonder why it's coming up now, because lot 1 and lot 2 have been identified. I mean, this is our fourth meeting, why this request wasn't identified before.
Well, I wasn't present at
Okay.
some of those previous meetings, and now we're going in for that final approval.
Okay.
And this is what is needed to be on the plan. And
So does that require us to come back next month?
oh, no.
Okay,
No.
perfect.
Sorry if this wasn't clear. So you were approved tonight with these specific conditions.
Okay,
And so you don't need to return. You
perfect.
just have to make these modifications. And again, I understand that I'll follow up with you.
Perfect.
And have this in writing.
Yep, Wayne can change it, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle.
Thank you.
So let's move on to the Stetson Farm preliminary plan.
I think we finished this one, yeah, the notation. The notation that needs to be happen about the road width needs to be on the plan.
That's, Natasha said that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Orion went through it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make it a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And, also I just wanted to recognize for the public that, especially with this application for Stetson Farm, this is the first time that the town is going through the conservation subdivision, which that ordinance was updated. And so we're just wanting to make sure we hit all of the data points within the ordinance. And I like to be a detailed planner, so that's why we are very much going through each point here, and I appreciate everyone's patience.
And I agree with that sentiment 100%. Regardless of how things were done in the past, our mission is purely to follow the ordinance. And so we're just going through exactly what the ordinance is asking us to do. And it's certainly painful at times, but I really think it's the best way to take care of these things. So with that said, we will move on to the Stetson Farm subdivision, conservation subdivision. Yep, and it passed. So as previously discussed, before us is a 10-lot subdivision. Proposed for Pullen Range Road. The submission proposes 9 lots with 1,000, what did we say, 1,800, 1,180, 1,086 foot road, requiring a waiver on road length under section 908C7E4, 91 acres of open space plus a 20-acre lot with development restrictions requiring a waiver for a new driveway on an existing road. Subject property is largely undeveloped, with just over 3/4 of the site largely forested. There are 3 waivers, as Natasha said earlier. Waiver 1 for road length, waiver 2 for a driveway onto an existing road, and the third waiver is for grass shoulders along the road. Site walk was held on January 10. The public hearing that's required for this review was just held. North Star has found the application complete with regard to the submission checklist. So before we move any further, I think we should review the application for completeness. I move to find the preliminary plan subdivision application for the Stetson Farm Conservation Subdivision located at Tax Map 1, Lot 6, complete in regard to the submission requirements.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Tim, do you agree with North Star's finding that the application is complete?
I do agree.
Any other comments? All in favor? Motion passes. So now with the application complete, we can more thoroughly review this application. So let's take a look at the waivers as proposed. Can you pull up the plan for us? So as far as the first motion or the first waiver, under section 908C7E4, for a road in excess of 1,000 feet, the planning board has the authority to grant a waiver. In my view, should we make a motion and then have a discussion? We can talk and.
Yeah, I might suggest that you actually talk through those 3 waivers and on the record indicate why relief from the standard is or is not to be granted. And then I would suggest in one fell swoop going through the motion with the ABC.
I like that. Okay, thank you. So my view of, yes.
A motion 1,185 feet, but Peter just said 1,186 feet.
Yes.
It's 86.
But I will say that is, if you see my memo, I have the plus minus feet. So that means approximately, just because it could round up or down. So just to make note of that, but certainly you can amend it to be
Yep, okay.
86, but then I would just make note that that is amended at the planning board hearing tonight.
Okay. As per the ordinance, the thought process behind adding additional road length was to try and move the lots further away from the road to shelter the road and the views from the subdivision. And I think in previous plans, the applicant had used some of the additional road length to add lots. But my view of this plan is that the road length is used to actually increase the aesthetics of the project.
Yeah, and that, the idea of the conservation subdivision is to look at the existing land and build in a way that minimizes negative impacts on the land and is provides adequate buffer to the road and a variety of reasons in order to with the understanding that we can increase road length in order to achieve other goals like minimizing impact or ensuring proper barriers, buffer zones from other neighbors and whatnot.
Mercedes sent me comments on the waivers, and she pretty much agrees with exactly what you said.
So let's take a look at the second waiver is to waive the performance and design standard under section 908C76 for lot 10, the 20-acre lot, in order to connect directly to Poland Range Road with a driveway. This kind of falls under the same sort of finding where if we think back to what the original proposal was, actually two public roads, which they would have been or two private roads off Poland Range Road. And instead we get 9 lots and 1 large lot. Trying to connect that 1 large lot to the proposed road would actually make the open space and the flow of the land, I think, worse. So I think it is appropriate in this case, in this specific case, to allow for the driveway to come off the Poland Range Road rather than trying to connect that lot because of the distance from the proposed road to the lot, that it just makes sense.
Agree.
Mercedes agrees, and so do I.
As for the third waiver, it's to waive the geometric standard under the public-private road ordinance, section 16, appendix E, geometric standard, streets, paved surfaces to allow for a grass shoulder along the proposed subdivision road in lieu of gravel shoulders. I feel that I think this would be a nice aesthetic touch, and as long as the fire chief is okay with this change, then I don't have a problem with the change.
I agree that the fire chief approval is key, and Mercedes also agrees with accepting this waiver.
Okay. So now I'll go through, why don't we go through each waiver and we'll have a vote. I motion to waive the performance and design standard under section 908C7E4 for a road in excess of 1,000 feet in order to allow the proposed road at 1,185 feet plus 85 plus or minus feet.
Second.
All in favor? I move to waive the performance and design standard under section 908C7C for lot 10, the 20-acre lot, in order to connect directly to Pullen Range Road with a driveway. All in favor? I make a motion to waive the geometric standard under the public and private roads ordinance, section 16, appendix E, geometric standards, streets, paved surface, to allow grass shoulders along the proposed subdivision road in lieu of gravel shoulders. All in favor? So now before the board would be to approve with conditions or deny the preliminary plan of the subdivision application. The suggested motion would be to approve with conditions, deny the preliminary plan subdivision application for the Stetson Farm Conservation Subdivision located at Tax Map 1, Lot 6, based on the application materials, plan sets, applicant testimony, and the findings of fact and conclusions of law in the planner memo dated July 22nd, 2026, with modifications as detailed in the conditions of approval. Number one, in alignment with the recommendations from the hydrologist's limited peer review letter, dug wells and well points are to be prohibited. B, the proposed bedrock water supply wells are to be installed according to main well drillers and pump installers rules, and these be listed as notes in the final plan. Number two, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide the following: to be reviewed by the attorney and receive select board approval for a road guarantee in the approximate amount of $205,000 and stipulations of the road agreement, see attachment F. B, the performance guarantee in the approximate amount of $529,000. This is based upon the construction estimate provided by the applicant. C, inspection fee equal to 2% of the cost of the required improvements, or pay inspection fee equal to the estimated cost of inspection by the town engineer and consulting engineer. And D, the form of these funds shall be provided through an irrevocable letter of credit, bond, or in cash. So if we go through the findings of fact, under section 908A, number one, arrangement of the roads, lots, dwellings, etc., will be harmonious with the environment, natural environment, rural character, and natural resources, i.e., comprehensive plan. As shown on the subdivision plan, the arrangement of the proposed, and this is, I should clarify, that first bit is the ordinance. The second bit is the facts from the submissions by the applicant. As shown on the subdivision plan, the arrangement of the proposed subdivision road and lot layout are based on an initial site inventory and existing conditions plan, which was prepared to show the various environmental resources on the site. Number two, will minimize undue effect on the environment. That's the ordinance. Based upon the submittal, the proposed subdivision takes into account the wetlands, just under 22 acres, vernal pool, 1, streams, 4, and significant wildlife and scenic resources. Additionally, no wetlands are proposed to be impacted. No stream crossings are proposed, and no disturbances or lot line is proposed within 250 feet of the singular vernal pool. Section 9083, buffers will screen houses from public roads. Based upon the submittal, no disturbances or lots are proposed within 75 feet DEP jurisdictional setback for streams. Additionally, both the 150-foot public roads lot setback and the 200-foot public road house setback along the Poland Range Road in front of the 9-lot subdivision are heavily wooded. The open space will be conveyed to Royal River Conservation Trust. 908C1 open space design, 60% preserved, contiguity, dimensional minimums, natural features protected. The open space is greater than 60%.
May I
Yes.
speak, Todd? So I might suggest, because with this application, there's a number of different sections of review criteria. Thank you for reading into the record the findings for 908A, for 908C, criterion 1 through 8. These are noted in the memo as staff suggested findings. So unless the board has any further discussion, which of course they may, I would say those don't need to be read into the record. I do think it's worthy of noting the third section, which is 906B3, regarding the additional written submissions that have both been provided by the applicant. And then the conclusions of law, I do think it is important to go through those. And in my revised memo, I do note that, so this is 901A, and there's 1 through 21 criteria. There's 7 that don't apply, and I can list them right now, but I would suggest stating why they don't apply to this particular application, which I have noted in my memo, but that's item 12, item 13. So again, that was 12, 13, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And then I do just want to underscore that when, if at the time the board decides to vote tonight, that that you just add within that third main motion the verbiage as amended at the planning board meeting, because that then will have all the findings made this evening put into the record. Thank you very much.
So under conclusions of law, section 908A, number 1, the proposed subdivision will or will not result in undue water and air pollution. I think that's the way I want to do this one, is we'll discuss, and then I feel like we should just make a call on each one as we're going through.
I would say will not, because this is 10 units of housing, and while it's 10 units of housing in one area, it is fulfilling the purpose of the conservation subdivision of preserving a lot of land. And so you could have 10 units spread out with single family home lots, and they would, this has no different necessarily on the impact of water and air than having 10 single family home lots spread out, as opposed to having them denser in this one area and preserving land around it.
Yeah, and I would say with the soils testing, there should be, enough of, that placing septic tanks and treating the wastewater should not be a,
Looked at the hydrogeo report, it had the plumes, how they extended. It didn't appear to cross individual water supplies. That right now, and subject for future discussion is if we had to add ADUs, what that would do to things, but that's not for us to decide tonight.
well, no, I think that's actually important. And I think this is all, the decisions, whether it's the road or this or that, it's based on the number of houses that are there, the number of dwellings there. And I think it adding ADUs, and I think it's important, and the applicant has already agreed to language in the homeowners association that they would not allow for ADUs.
Principal dwelling units, so we did not rule out ADUs.
Did not rule out ADUs. So potentially that could add, that could stress out that that property quite a bit if ADUs are allowed. Yeah.
I just wouldn't want, I'm wondering whether if we make certain decisions about principal dwellings, if they could, state law could overrule what we decide.
Well, yeah, and so, and that's kind of the linchpin of this whole conversation then. Because we're talking about a 10-lot subdivision with 10 homes, but if we're really talking about a 15 or 20 or 30 lot, or sorry, 30 dwelling subdivision, that becomes a completely different animal. Yeah, Peter.
Our thought was we would put in the homeowner's document, so it wouldn't really matter what state law
Right.
changed, and that would make sure nobody's building a second principal structure on the lot, but that the ADUs, if you build an ADU, you still need to have the appropriate septic size for that. So there are still some requirements that make sure that, you know, the house over in the garage or whatever you're doing still has to work with the land and meet soil and water requirements. So I guess there is some protection in that way. But that was one thing that we were not really wanting to rule out. If somebody wanted to have an ADU in their home or in-law apartment, you know, whatever.
So just to clarify, just so I understand, the language you're proposing in the HOA would be what?
Well, we would work with our attorney to come up with the language and your attorney, but that prohibited a second principal dwelling unit.
Okay. So something like a in-law apartment would be allowed
I think as long as it's right, sorry.
to have an additional building separate from the main dwelling would potentially not be allowed.
Something over and above whatever Pownell constitutes as a ADU.
Okay.
Todd, may I weigh in here? Apologize, I did come in late to that, but I just wanted to note for the board and for the public that the key to that is that the provided HOA documents would be reviewed by the town's attorney. So that would be, so that it can be reviewed for making sure that the interest of the town is met and that the interest of state statute, especially because state statute will be changing come June 2027 based on the legislature and decisions that were made. So I think in my view and for my guidance to the board for the discussion this evening, I think that satisfies my concern in terms of this documentation will be reviewed by the town's attorney to make sure that it is in alignment with state statute and newly to be adopted state statute, thanks to the LD 1829, 2173, and other such state statute, which does impact the housing density and ADU ordinance. Thank you.
And I think, to correct me if I'm wrong, but we have, for the final plan, we do need a homeowners agreement, and it has to be reviewed by the attorney.
I believe that is, I did have up earlier the requirements of, bear with me just a moment. I'm just trying to recall for myself the section in the ordinance. I'm not immediately finding it, but the ordinance is very clear on what the requirements and thresholds are for final plan submittal. And so I believe that is one of the requirements, but that would be at the next stage. And so I'm in agreement with you that yes, that would need to be met for the final plan threshold.
So I think the client is thinking about submitting that final plan pretty quickly. So that'll be their list.
Thank you.
So just, yeah, just as, so I'm clear on this, Natasha, as we're trying to figure out what ultimately what this thing might look like. Are you suggesting that there would be no limitations? And I think this point about ADUs is fairly important, considering the size of the subdivision. Are you implying that there would really be no restrictions on ADUs? Because we would have to take that into consideration when we're talking about all these.
I don't think I was implying that. I think what I meant to say is that it is, I found the citation, so it's 907 A and B. There's criteria under there in terms of what the purpose and what the submittal requirements are for the final plan. The thing that I'm concerned about is being within the town ordinance and state statute. And so basically what I'm saying is what is ever proposed by the applicant and owner would have to be reviewed by the town attorney to meet those qualifications. And also this would be something that would be coming before the board for review. So without me knowing yet exactly what that said, and I apologize because I was gone for a moment, but I believe that there is.
I don't know if we can factor in hypothetical ADUs into some of evaluation criteria. There are limits on ADUs in relation to setbacks and septic and all these things. And if, you know, the intent of the state was to allow more housing, not to say that, and I would say the intent of the state was not that then every town, if they had a 2-acre minimum lot size, would then change their lot size to a 4-acre minimum lot size because now ADUs are allowed. The intent was, by the state, was to allow ADUs in single-family home lot sizes. And so if we look at any single-family home and then we are saying, well, actually, any single family home could have an ADU. And then we're going to change our rules, our evaluation criteria to look at it as a two-family homes. I don't think that is in line with what the state's intention is. There are limitations on ADUs. And these being actually smaller lot sizes, I actually think there's less likely you will have an ADU because you have more buffer and septic constraints than anybody who has a larger 2+ acre single family home are more likely actually to have ADUs. And if we are evaluating ADUs potential impact on this, we would then have to evaluate ADU potential impact on every application that comes in for a single family home. And, I think it's a discussion we had, but I think at this point, I don't think we should be addressing hypothetical ADU impacts when it's not part of the application. Fair.
So I feel under 901A1, the proposed subdivision will not result in undue water or air pollution. Does that sound good to everyone?
Agreed.
Okay. The proposed subdivision will or will not have sufficient water available for the foreseeable needs of the subdivision. So we have a couple different documents from the applicant, from Sensi and both SME. They both agree that the recharge to the bedrock aquifer at the site is not likely to be a limiting factor for the proposed development, and that most wells drilled in this bedrock formation are able to meet the needs of a single-family home. One thing that I noticed when I'm looking at the map, I don't know if Orion, if you could pull that up, it might be hard for everybody to see. But there's a lot of variation between from one well to the other. There's some that produce very little, and there's some that produce quite a bit. It seems my reading of both the peer review and the initial review of the wells, it's because of the nature of the aquifer that it is a little unpredictable from site to site. And that's why one well will produce a lot and another well won't produce as much. And so I was thinking about a test well and what that would, what kind of information that might give the board. And my understanding of this sort of aquifer is that there's water there, but whether you find it with this test well or not is really the question. And just because you find it at one site doesn't mean you'll find it 20 feet, 100 feet away at a different site. And so the value of doing a test well is really limited because it's not giving the information that you really want, which is, will every well produce water for the residents? Which I don't think there's a test based on my review of the documents. It's almost a buyer beware situation where there is water there, but whether they can find it on their lot, that's a different question. So in my view, based on these two documents, that there is sufficient water available, but it's just a question of will each lot find the water that they need. And I feel that may be a different question, but I'd be interested to hear what the board thinks about that.
Yeah, I think, the big question to me is like, is there enough water in the aquifer to deal with these new addition of houses without adversely affecting neighbors? And I think the information we have indicates that the aquifer, there's enough water in the aquifer. Whether or not, when you dig a specific well, on a specific parcel, if you are tapping into the aquifer in a way that you're getting the flow that you want, it is, as you said, kind of buyer beware. And so, you know, uh, sometimes it's a case of just drill deeper until you get it, or drill again. But my thought from the town's perspective is the aquifer capacity more than a specific site being able to get the well that they want. And if for some reason some plot of land dug 10 wells and couldn't get the water they wanted, that is unfortunately the burden of the applicant to bear, not necessarily the town's burden. So I'm satisfied with the information that has been evaluated by Sevi and Mahar engineers.
I've read those reports pretty carefully, and I acknowledge the residents, some of them saying they don't always have water, or they have a shortage of water. So the variability in the yield as well as the depth is, it's unpredictable. And the other facet of it is that the recharge, on a yearly basis, you've got that sufficient recharge, but in a drought, you're going to have ups and downs. So I'm still believing that we can meet the criteria for sufficient water, and it will be, I don't think a test well will add anything because it's so variable. And then it becomes a question of the buyer having those enough resources to find the water that they need.
So for two, I would propose that the proposed subdivision will have sufficient water available for the reasonably foreseeable needs of the subdivision.
Agreed.
The proposed subdivision will not cause an unreasonable burden on the existing water supply. I don't feel that this is applicable because I think this is talking about a public water supply.
I mean, this could relate to the whole, how much water's underground and the water maps that we have for the town. And there's the water information we have for the aquifer is that our aquifer is doing well comparably and can take additional demand.
It's not a mapped aquifer, so that's part of the problem.
Read that as public water.
So if we look at this ordinance under section 900, again, we're at 901B, and now we're in 3, the full sentence. Just to explain a little bit, for brevity's sake, a portion of those items are indicated in the memo. And so after it says number 3, will not cause an unreasonable burden on existing water supply, comma, if one is to be utilized. And Co-Chair Todd's question was, perhaps this doesn't apply because there is not one to be utilized. And my reading of this would concur. Thank you.
Number 4, the proposed subdivision will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or reduction in the capacity of the land to hold water so that a dangerous or unhealthy condition may result. The applicant has provided a very thorough stormwater plan. I'm not qualified to judge the appropriateness of that stormwater plan, so I would suggest that this item be peer reviewed to make sure that it's actually meeting the the standards set by the ordinance.
Our interpretation of this has to do with the amount of impervious area that would cause erosion. And so the amount of impervious area is minor because it's a small road. And then there's a construction management plan for stormwater as well. So I'm leaning towards saying it will not.
I agree with Marcia.
Yeah, for sure.
So we did have to submit a stormwater permit by rule. So they got the stormwater report, grading plans, and we have been approved by DEP. So we have that approval, and they are in the process of evaluating our application for the main constructional general permit, which is all about erosion control. So we should have that any day now, and that will be, I don't want to say fine, but that will be fine. So that will be in our final submission. You'll get both those approvals.
Okay.
And if the approval wasn't in yet, you can always make something in, reliant upon approval of DEP's acceptance of the plans that they've.
The argument I might make, if I may, Marcia, is it's a road that's 20 feet wide, and it's going to carry a bit of water, and so they actually, like, the stormwater plan is pretty significant if you go through it. And if they didn't have that stormwater plan, that could potentially be a problem for the residents of the subdivision, or perhaps if that water is just running down onto Poland Range Road, it could be a problem for Poland Range Road as well. So I do feel like the stormwater, the way I'm reading that ordinance number 4 is that it is to prevent stormwater from causing erosion or damage to property around the subdivision, in or around. Tim, did you have any thoughts?
No, I think you're exactly right. It's something, it's an important thing that needs to be looked at. I am not qualified to look at it and say that it's a good plan or it's a bad plan. I think a quick third-party review, it wouldn't be a bad idea myself.
The question is whether we feel like DEP would offer sufficient review in their approval, or whether we need a set of eyes.
That's the question, because I mean, it looks like a good plan, but I don't know. But I do feel it's important that stormwater is managed.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, but the construction general permit, that is more for construction runoff, not so much for ongoing runoff from the completed project.
Correct. That's all to do with the construction of the project. But the stormwater permit that we received was all about what you mentioned, Todd, the grading, where stormwater is going, the attenuation, all about that, the level spreaders, details. So that was evaluated by DEP with the stormwater permit. And I think I did forward the approval to staff. So that's in the town record, but we would be submitting that again with the full final package.
So is the review, Natasha, by the DEP of the stormwater plan, would you have a comment of whether or not that would serve as a peer review of sorts?
So I think maybe if I may take a step back, it's important to think about what the threshold or, you know, what qualifies a third-party review. So their scope is reviewing, their selected professional reviewing basically the process of which the professional who reviewed it, sorry, let me take a step back. Their scope is limited to basically recertifying almost, if you will, that what was done lawfully or, you know, according to DEP Chapter 500 standards. It is obvious, absolutely the appetite of the board whether to request that. I would just also take this opportunity to remind the board that with the erosion control plan and with the different plans that have been provided and reviewed by professionals, they are required to have the stamp, the signature, the seal of that professional who is registered typically by the state of Maine. And so they are putting their licensure up for making those qualifications. So for me as a planning professional, I take that with weight. But certainly if there are factors that would have the board lean a particular way, that is within your right to request that by the ordinance. That was not in my staff suggested conditions, but it certainly could be added if you find that needed. I hope I answered that appropriately.
Yeah, I was not implying that the engineer was shoddy.
Yep.
At all. I was just implying that it's, as a board, we're taking the word of an engineer, because I can't, I have no way of reviewing that information in any reasonable way to determine whether or not that is an adequate design for stormwater management. So my problem in saying that it will, no unreasonable to say that there will be no unreasonable soil erosion. It's hard for me to say that other than they have a plan for stormwater management.
I might suggest, and maybe even Peter can comment on this probably better than I can, but when that review is done, we're also looking at, you know, part of this review in this conclusion of law is all of the regulatory documents that are, you know, relate to this application. So of course it is the ordinance before us from the town, but then there's also much federal and state statute. And so those items have to be followed. So just, again, I'm just only trying to provide a little bit of context. Again, Peter might be able to speak to that a little bit more eloquently than I. But I think these are good questions, a good discussion to have. I'm just, you know, trying to add to that bucket of knowledge that we're discussing tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. So what's the thought of the board on number 4? I'm open either way. I'm just throwing out what my thoughts are. Just looking at that one item.
I mean, I think in general, I trust an engineer doesn't want to lose their license and be unable to work in the state by putting in information that is not, and you have the DEP reviewing to make sure, you know, that it follows their guidelines, whether or not they're doing a super thorough review of every aspect of it. You know, if there is a specific thing about why we think this project or, you know, warrants another engineer to review the work of that engineer, as we kind of did with Civi and Mahar Engineer, and we kind of got them basically saying that they agreed with the previous engineer, and we would probably get, I'm guessing, whatever third-party engineer would back up their engineer. But, you know, if there's something specific about this project that we think warrants a second set of eyes, I think we should clearly state that so that in the future, we can say to applicants, when we see these flags, we're going to ask for a second set of eyes. If we can't clearly state why this one warrants a second set of eyes, I would accept the, you know, their engineer and the DEP's review of stormwater.
I guess I'll go with whatever the majority thinks, but given the discussion about the road and road safety, if there was a feeling that there might be, and maybe Peter would answer this, that somehow there's a chance of increased flow down Poland Range Road, then that would maybe give us pause. I was before focusing on the impervious surface and the absorption factor, but I recognize this is an element of stormwater too, so maybe Peter's going to say something.
Our stormwater is being managed by ditches around the roadside and culverts, and there are two places where we have level spreaders. So you can kind of see the lower lot one, that right to the right of that. Yeah, the arrow's almost on it. The little rectangle there. No, up. Yep, right up in there. That is boxed out for a level spreader. So and water's going to get that level spreader. The level spreader spreads it out so that you get sheet flow coming out of that. So that's one part. And then between the next two lots, you'll see a kind of drainage way right through there. There's another level spreader in there, and that is doing the same thing. So we actually, the way the topography works, it works pretty well for that road in being able to pick up the water in roadside swales, and those would be grassed swales, and convey them to those locations. And then they're going out into the interior wetland. So we really should not be impacting any other lots, any people. They've got a long way to travel through that open space to get somewhere. And I think we also would not be dumping water out onto Poland Range Road. So there will not be water coming off our pavement right out into Poland Range Road.
Excuse me, Peter, but doesn't the road slope towards the Poland Range Road?
Yeah, but we'll be that will be crowned, and we'll be dumping that off into the buffers along there. So the water will not be coming down into Poland Range Road. We will be sheeting and shedding that off before we get there.
I think, Tim, in terms of a peer review.
It's completely up to the board. As Natasha has said, it's your prerogative if you'd like one. If you have questions in your mind or whether you're qualified to say it's okay, and I think it's a legitimate ask.
Yeah, I'm not seeing, to Orion's point, I'm not seeing any specific red flag in this case. It's purely just not having the background on this.
If I may, Todd, I just like to make a comment just as clarification as we're working through these conditions, that I think that Co-Chair Orion indicated quite well and eloquently that unless there is some kind of specific concern that the board can identify, and that very well may be, I would caution proceeding with an impact, any sort of a further assessment or study, unless there is, again, those red flags or there's a certain scope and like particular detail that is causing that concern. I think maybe that is perhaps a good way to, as we walk through the rest of these 901A 1 through 21 items, I think that is the intent of the regulations for them to be so detailed, is that we are having these questions and having these questions before the public and the applicant and such. But I think that's a good lens as we're going through this. And again, I think this attention to detail, while it is creating a lengthy meeting, is so important because this is, again, the town going through these new ordinances, and it is reasonable to want to make sure we're hitting all of the important parts of the application and the questions that have been raised by the public throughout this process. So I'll end there, but I think that's a good way to go forward.
So for number 4, I'll say the proposed subdivision will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or reduction in the capacity of the land to hold water so that a dangerous or unhealthy condition may result. Number 5, the proposed subdivision will or will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion or unsafe conditions with respect to the use of the highways and public roads existing or proposed.
I think because of the public comment, and this is a good area to have further discussion on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There were some road and safety evaluations done. Should we quickly review kind of what was done and what,
I'm actually gonna, Peter, I'll let you, if you want to go over that, that would be great.
Sure. So I would refer to the Sewell Engineering traffic assessment. On page 4 of beginning under field review, Poland Range Road was reviewed in regard to roadway geometrics during a field review on May 8, 2026. The gravel section of the road from Hollowell Road to the Freeport Town Line was reviewed. The roadway width, compact gravel travelway, varied from 22 to 24 feet in width. Generally, there was additional gravel shoulder widths of 1 to 3 feet beyond the compact measured portion. No safety deficiencies such as narrow portions inadequate for two-way traffic were noted. The traffic assessment also reviewed site distance, which was found to meet the town requirements. It reviewed the high crash locations and found them to be acceptable. Most of the accidents turn out to be deer accidents. So no safety deficiencies were noted there. I guess the other thing that I would refer to is the DOT, Peter Coughlin, DOT local road engineer. And if I can find his. Here we go. His assessment coming out and driving the road was, bear with me one more moment here. Got my, here we go. He talks about the condition of the road, the width, and basically goes down to say, a typical dirt road, it needs crown work. It's got some potholes and low points, and not much crown. It's got some high shoulder dams, the things that you would see on a road that needs some maintenance. But his other comments were about road width. Overall road was in good shape considering we're in the middle of mud season. Rather wide at 22 to 24 feet with shoulders. Had good stable gravel as there was little mud. Depth of gravel base appeared to be a couple feet plus in most places. had ditches, drainage, but typical crown issues with standing water, potholes and low points, and not much crown at all. High shoulder edge dams prohibiting drainage getting to the ditches. So those were the, coming from the folks that did go out and take a look at that. The DOT was out there based on town road commissioner, and the traffic assessment was a design professional working with us.
If I may, I'll just note for the record that I did reference, this was included in the online materials, but I also included it in my packet as attachment A, the letter from Peter Coughlin from MDOT that Peter Beagle is referring to.
So understanding the neighbors' concerns about the road, and we're getting information that the road may be it's a dirt road, of course. But it appears to be in decent shape from professionals. The applicant is willing to put up over $200,000 to repair any damage that occurs to the road from construction. I'm a little uncertain how this would negatively, other than the road traffic, which is going to increase everywhere around town. My road, for example, already has 10 houses in the last 10 years. Granted, it's a paved road. But we're seeing construction everywhere, and that is not going to stop. I don't know whose responsibility it is to improve the road, but I think it's fair that the applicant is proposing to at least keep it in the condition that it's currently in. As far as improving the road, that would be a decision that the town itself would have to make. And if it's that unreasonable of a road, then I think perhaps residents should talk to the select board. But I'm not sure that we can ask the applicant to do any more than what they're proposing. According to the ordinances, the way the ordinances are written. Whether somebody doesn't like the way that the ordinance is written is, that's a different argument. But according to the way the ordinance is written, no unreasonable highway or road congestion or unsafe conditions. I'm not sure that they don't meet that.
I've thought a lot about this, especially hearing the residents' concerns, which I believe are real.
I agree, 100%.
And looking at the specific causing unsafe conditions. And looking over Diane Morabito's report, and she's a respected traffic engineer. But I think the thing that I view most importantly is the DOT assessment, because they went out in April. And I have to respect DOT's assessment that there was adequacy there. I don't deny that any increase in traffic, once you hit a major road, it's going to be dangerous. We all know every time you turn on Route 9 or 136. dangerous. So that's not my concern. My concern has been the traffic on the road and the households and the condition of the road. And the experts that we've asked to look at this have said it's not a problem. And I don't know what to do with that information because I'm hearing something very different from the residents.
And you're hearing something different from the road commission, and Natasha, and the code enforcement. Sorry for speaking out loud. This is getting ridiculous.
So if you were to further test the road, you would find that the road is in the condition that it's in. And then the question is, does the current condition represent an unsafe condition, which is not a problem for the board. The problem for the board is, will this subdivision create unsafe, unreasonable highway road congestion? And those are two separate items. The road condition is the road condition. The applicant is proposing to return the road condition to its current condition, which I think is fair. But whether or not the road is in good condition is a problem for the town. And to me, in my view, I have to weigh those things as separate entities, because whether you have a subdivision going in with 10 lots at a time, or you have 10 lots going in over the course of 3 or 4 years, you're going to have the same impact on the road. And so in my mind, I'm trying my best to separate those two items.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at circumstances where professionals have said, if you put a driveway or road here, that's an unsafe spot to put it. And that has affected our decisions in previous things. We haven't had a professional say, putting a road or driveway here is creating an unsafe environment. And so we've talked about this road thing, and it has been an evolving discussion of, we've heard from some residents saying the road as it is unsafe and it should be upgraded and the town should do something, and other residents saying they like the dirt road the way it is and they don't want to see it upgraded. But that's not really what, in our conversations, the discussions in previous meetings has been, well, it's not really fair to the applicant to say that you need to fix this road up to this level beyond to what it is. And so we've had this discussion, multiple meetings, and the select board has talked with the applicant and come up with this plan that we're going to evaluate where the road is. And if the road deteriorates beyond what it is, the applicant will have to pay to upgrade it back to the condition it is. And I agree with Todd that, we haven't had a professional say, this road is so bad, adding a single home or adding 10 homes is going to create an unsafe condition. And so I very much respect the opinions of the people who live on the road, but not having somebody who's a road professional and has been looked by road professionals provide us with that opinion. It's hard for me to say that it's creating unreasonable or unsafe conditions if I don't have a professional telling me that.
And kind of to Bill's point, and I'll take your comment, even though you spoke out of turn, it's fine. But yeah, the question is, and what you quoted what we've said in past meetings, and you're correct. I mean, that's what the record shows. But as Orion has said, this is an evolving process, and much like the idea of doing a test well, what in my world, what I actually do every day is tests, and I test a lot. And so I'm acutely aware of the value of a test. And so what a test should do is give you actionable information. And if that test is not going to provide you with actionable information, there's not really a point in running the test. In our case, we have a road that is of questionable quality. We can run the test and it's going to show that the road is of questionable quality, but ultimately that's not going to change how we have to act on this particular application before us. So in other words, if the road is a problem and we run a test, whatever test you want to run, and it confirms that the road's a problem, that's not the fault of the applicant. And I don't feel, according to the ordinances, that we can deny that this portion of the application based on the condition that the road is currently in. If there was a test that would say that 10 additional homes were going to wreck this road, then there should be a moratorium on building on this road, which we can't do. You can't do. Well, you have to talk to, you have to talk to the select board.
You can do it.
Y-
You could do it if you're willing to do the test, but maybe you don't want to know the results, because I don't think.
I'm going to weigh in, please, just as the
Yeah.
planner, that I think we need to follow the appropriate decorum. This is a board discussion, and I absolutely appreciate your opinions, but we need to follow the sanctity of the procedure and process here.
So, I feel that people are going to be unhappy no matter what. So it is not my job to be well-liked. It's my job right now to just go through the ordinances as they are written. So based on what we know and what information we have, with the bond that the applicant is willing to provide to return the road to the current condition, I feel that they meet this requirement. Tim, I'd be happy to have your thoughts as well.
As a resident who's been in this town for a long time, I can tell you that I used to get stuck in that road as a kid. As houses have come onto but there was no houses back there then. As houses have been built near or on the road has improved. So I think that we cannot expect the road not to improve with more traffic. I think it will be improved, and I think you're completely right that it's up to the select board to come up with a plan to improve the road when it needs it. I also think that it's a landowner's right to develop their property within what we allow in our ordinances, and that seems to be what is happening here.
So, I would propose that the proposed subdivision will not cause unreasonable highway or public congestion or unsafe conditions with respect to the use of the highways or public roads existing or proposed.
Agreed.
Number 6, adequate solid and sewage waste disposal. I feel that this is satisfied with regards to sewage according to the soil testing. I think Peter had clarified pickup for solid waste. And I feel that that's all pretty straightforward.
Agreed.
So I would suggest the subdivision will provide for adequate solid and sewage waste disposal. Will or will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to dispose of solid waste sewage if the municipal services are to be utilized. That does not apply. Will not place an unreasonable burden on the ability of the local governments to provide municipal or governmental services. The only question, I don't feel like this will be a burden on the local government, but I am a little concerned about the RSU, and we've run into this a little bit previously. I might suggest that the applicant reach out to the RSU before the final plan, assuming, not making any assumptions, if the application goes to final plan, about what potential impact this development might have on the RSU.
I have an observation in that we have had, this issue raised up in other applications of what is the impact on the school. And I think it's kind of interesting that we're actually in a situation right now where there's discussions about not having Pownell be an elementary school actually because there's not enough, it's too expensive and there's not enough kids going into it, basically to justify the expenses of it, according to people in other towns. And so I think it's a legitimate concern of what is impact on the school, but there's actually potentially impact on the schools by, not having enough kids is also something to consider.
I did look at the projected school numbers, and they actually have been declining recently. So to me, it would be nice to have a letter from the RSU just to document that, but I was actually surprised that.
So we'll say will not have an undue adverse effect, will not place an unreasonable burden on the ability of the local governments to provide municipal and governmental services. Number 9, will not have an undue adverse effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area, aesthetics, historic sites, or rare or irreplaceable natural areas. In the documentation, the submission from the applicant, Peter, you had, I think you put in your submission that it would impact this, but I think you meant that it would not impact it.
Correct. We had letters from the Maine Historical Preservation Commission, the Maine Natural Areas Program, and Department of Maine Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, all stating that they did not see an impact from this project.
And that was my reading as well.
Yep.
And I would say that I personally, in the application, it has been clear to me in the process that the applicant cares about this land and the beauty of it and, and wanting to preserve it with the land trust. So I would compliment the applicant on the effort they put into this specific area.
Number 10, to be honest, Natasha, number 10 makes no sense to me as a line item because to me, it's actually summarizing the whole, the whole process. So I'm gonna take liberty and skip it.
I would agree with that opinion.
And we may want to look at changing that wording in the,
With the upcoming ordinance
Yeah,
revisions with, yes, I agree, because, just for the record stating, we have the subregs, we have an ordinance, and that is what we're reviewing, kind of this threshold of everything based upon.
right. Number 11, the subdivider. The subdivider has adequate financial technical capacity to meet the above stated. We have seen that in the UBS document. No adverse, number 12, no adverse effect on water quality shoreline, not applicable. 13, not applicable. Freshwater wetlands have been identified on the submitted maps. That is true. Farmland identified, that's true. River streams, brooks identified, that is true. Uh, 17, we've discussed the proposed subdivision will provide for adequate stormwater management. 18 does not apply. 19 does not apply. 20 does not apply. And 21 does not apply. So, I've read those out as we were kind of going through them, Natasha. Would that be adequate for the record as long as I insert that sentence that we had talked about?
Yes, I think including that as amended at the planning board meeting, I think that is sufficient. I feel that the board has gone into great detail reviewing these standards and then also the applicant, because this is a conservation subdivision, i.e. the form of a major subdivision in the community. With this resubmittal, and Peter did provide a narrative actually walking through each of these criteria as well. So with all that detail on the record, I feel that we can proceed. And I do appreciate the board and going through these and the public's patience as we did.
Okay. So, I move to approve with conditions the preliminary plan subdivision application for the Stetson Farm Conservation Subdivision located at tax map 1 lot 6 based on the application materials plan sets, applicant testimony and the findings of fact and conclusions of law and the planner memo dated July 22, 2026 as amended at the planning board meeting with modifications as detailed in the conditions of approval. Number 1, in alignment with the recommendations from the hydrologist's limited peer review letter, A, dug wells and well points are to be prohibited. B, the proposed bedrock water supply wells are to be installed according to the main well drillers and pump installers rules. C, and these be listed as notes in the final plan. Number 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide the following to be reviewed by the town attorney and receive select board approval for a road guarantee in the approximate amount of $205,000 and stipulations of the road agreement. See attachment F. B, the performance guarantee in the approximate amount of $529,000. This is based on the construction cost estimate provided by the applicant. See attachment C, page 13. The inspection fee equal to 2% of the cost of the required improvements, or pay at an inspection fee equal to the estimated cost of inspection by the town engineer or consulting engineer. D, and the form of these funds shall be provided through an irrevocable letter of credit or a bond or in cash.
Motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. The next question that we really need to get straight on is what happens next?
I just want to mention that, I know Chris is still here from Royal River Conservation Trust, but they have questions about what needs to be submitted with the final plan, given that really they won't be involved until at least 3 house sites get developed. So I would like to address that since they've been patiently waiting here,
They've been here all this time.
as well as the review of the homeowners association agreement by the lawyer. Those are kind of 2 items that we need to nail down.
Yep.
For the finding.
So we'll need to determine what exactly will be needed from Royal River. I don't know if that's something Tim or Natasha could take care of for us and reach out to them.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I'll just note on the record that Marcia did forward on an email to me from conversations with their executive director there at the trust, and that myself and Tim would be glad to continue those conversations with Chris. And I can certainly, for transparency, write up a memo or some documentation so that that can be provided as an exhibit for the next meeting. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come up and introduce yourself, please.
Chris Franklin, resident of North Yarmouth, but executive director, Royal River Conservation Trust. So yeah, I mean, it's really just for us about the timing, that you just making sure that this is not a condition of final approval. We don't want to hold things up for the applicant. We're very, willing to work with the town to get the open space plan, land management plan in the form that you want it. Just it's really about the timing. So.
I don't think having the specific, as long as we have a letter of understanding from Royal River Trust, I don't know that having the specific document would hold things up.
My thought would be to have the letter of understanding from Royal River Trust and have our attorney review it.
Right.
Yeah. Because, the open space doesn't technically transfer until 50% of the units have been sold. And so we would, certainly prior to taking acquisition of the land, we would want to have an approved land, so I think
Yeah.
we'd have time to do that. So just not in the next month, we wouldn't have time to do that.
Right. So like I said, I don't think the board would have a problem with a letter of understanding and then with final documents later.
And if I may weigh in, to Chris's point, the ordinance asks that a letter of intent from Land Trust for open space ownership be at this stage, and we have received that. And so I think the next evolution is to have more of that detail. And so we've said on the record that we'll be glad to have those discussions. So I appreciate you sitting through this meeting.
Yep.
I'll be looking forward to touching base with you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yep.
My feeling is it doesn't have to be super detailed. It's a letter of intent. I mean, they're an organization that has property in town already and has an excellent reputation for management. So there's a certain level of trust in the trust.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, you should, you need to come up to the mic.
please state your name.
Yeah.
Susan Pye, 291 Levy Road, and a butter of land on Poland Range Road. What happens if 50% of the lots don't sell? Like if the market crashes and 50% of them don't sell? Like, is there a timeline? I thought that might be the answer.
We were
But-
actually aware
Yeah.
that the 50%, we were thinking.
Peter, do you mind coming to the mic and just reintroduce, just for a point of order? Thank you.
And I don't, maybe Jim should be saying this, but we weren't really aware that it was at 50% sales. We were thinking it's right away. So I don't know if that's a Royal River thing or what, but I guess our thought was that you folks wanted to make sure that we didn't make a promise and skip town, so that we were transferring land as part of this whole, as a condition of approval or whatever it is, that when we get our approval, that we're committed to within a certain number of days, whatever it is, to get paperwork complete.
Where's that condition come from?
It's in the order.
Oh, it is. Oh, sorry.
Oh, the 50%. So is that no later than?
I think that's the condition that has to be met. I thought that just applied to the homeowners. The homeowners are responsible until 50% of it's all, at which time it gets transferred to the entity.
Oh, I thought that was, yeah, I guess I'll stop talking. I thought that was when the homeowner, when Jim turned whatever he had as the developer over to the homeowners association. But the open space getting transferred to the open space entity is part of our, approval process. And I don't know, I guess maybe we need to look at that. Maybe we can talk about that with Natasha and Tim or, whoever, but I think. So, yeah, not a hold up on, yeah.
If I may weigh in, when I'm looking at the ordinance with regard to the requirements before us this evening, it is about that letter of intent. I would say I've been provided emails that forwarded from Marcia about the intent of the ED of the trust to proceed with this. He's kindly been in attendance at least at all of the meetings that I've been in attendance for as well, here at the planning board for this item. So I think that intent is abundantly clear. And with some of these fine details, I think is absolutely appropriate for myself as town planner to work with the CEO and work with the prevailing entity at the trust, and of course, have the applicant and owner at the table. And this will be chatted through, and then we will bring this back to the next meeting and share the suggested plan and be able to get board discussion, board review, public input. But as far as I'm concerned on the threshold of the ordinance, I think it has been met at this point, which is our guiding document for tonight under preliminary plan review. I appreciate this discussion. as we've noted, this is a newer ordinance, and there are these types of discussion when unfortunately, Jim, you're the guinea pig of this, and we certainly appreciate everyone's attention to detail, but I'm confident that this threshold before us tonight has been met.
Natasha, would that mean, I'm looking at the ordinance, about 51% the development. The developer maintains control of designated open spaces until at least 51% of the development lots have been conveyed. So would that have to be a waiver then if we went a different direction? This is on,
Why don't we, I think what Natasha was kindly saying,
is the
is
work it
that
out.
let's end this.
Yeah. I see that notation and I agree, Todd. I think the threshold for tonight has been met. We are going to, in detail, make sure that future thresholds are met for the middle of the final plan, and I'm confident we will do that. And we will return to the public and to the board with that information. So thank you.
What I would like to focus on is what needs to be done for the next meeting, please. So I have to admit that I was spending a lot of time on other items tonight. So I didn't have time to review what's required for the next meeting. We do have to have a public hearing for the final plan before we can vote on final plan approval. So I might suggest that we try and have another public hearing before the next meeting if we're going to try and move this forward. That's not to say that we would necessarily vote on final approval, but in order for there to be a vote, we do need a public hearing.
The public hearing is after the final plan has been submitted.
Right. So assuming the applicant could provide a final plan before the deadline for the next meeting, we should think about scheduling a public hearing. Is that kind of what you guys are going to try and do? Yes. And like I said, I would make no guarantee that we'd be voting on it. Yeah. Because it's a lot of information for us to go through. But we should consider having the public hearing before the next meeting.
Well,
Just like we did today.
It's a 3-week process to get the public notice published in time before the public.
So do we have the time to do that?
Barely.
Okay, let's make it happen.
So
Well,
what,
do we know that we'll have everything submitted for the final plan by the next meeting?
If we commit to a public hearing,
I'm just looking.
yeah,
Yeah, we've been geared up to try to make that happen. So we're planning on getting that, the August 5th deadline, I think.
so for the public hearing, Becky will need by the end of next week, preferably earlier, the notice needs to go out in the papers.
What's it? Right, but don't forget, we don't even have we only have 3 weeks till the next meeting. And it has to be submitted by,
It's pretty tight.
if public hearing is to be scheduled for August 19th, is that the next meeting? The ad needs to be in August 7th edition. So she has to submit it by July 31st.
that's by the end of the week. No, that's going to next, yeah.
Week, by the end
And
of
she's
next
going to
week.
be out a few days too, so.
Yes, she's not going to be, we're going to have to check on her schedule to be sure, but she is going to be out, I think, Thursday at least, so we'll need that, whatever we want to put in the wording for the article. Yeah. So
Okay,
we'll
yeah.
work with you on that.
I think I can get it to her sometime.
I'm going to ask Tim and Natasha to go through the steps of for the final plan. And if you guys would be able to get with Jim and Peter and make sure that we can get all our ducks in a row.
Thanks, Todd. If I may, I'll just refer again to the ordinance. This is within section 907. A is procedure and B is submission. So I can commit certainly to work with Tim and the applicant to make sure that that documentation is in place.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I just want to, because we didn't have the public hearing scheduled I just want to make sure that the board also has our ducks in a row. And other than the public hearing and planning for that, I don't think there's anything else that we need to do other than show up.
I'm just taking a quick review through this as I think Tim is, so give me just a moment.
So a couple of the major things is the review from the attorney, that will need to be done quickly. And of the bylaws, I believe, and also of the performance guarantee. Select board will have to meet, I believe, with the applicants to agree on the details of that.
Okay.
Were there, I have to ask this question, I can't find it in the ordinance, there were supposed to be permanent reference monuments on the plan, are they already there?
Those are gonna have to be there.
On the subdivision plan.
Yeah, so if they can be found, and then lots and blocks. You know what that means?
All the lots are gonna have to be staked out and all the survey and pins are gonna have to be in place.
But if I may weigh in, I think, Marcia, were you looking at G? Lots and blocks within the subdivision numbered in accordance with local practice?
Yeah,
I presume, and this is referring to adding that detail to the final plan. Do you mind coming to the mic?
Mike, yeah, it's fine.
The plan, if it doesn't already have, where we're proposing, in all the lot corners, there will be a monument or there will be a pin, depending on what that is, whether it's road right of way or whether it's a lot corner, but there will be pins shown in all of those, and those will all be part of,
I didn't know what I was asking for, but I
Yeah.
wanted to know it was there, or
Yeah.
would be there.
And I think maybe I know it's coming upon 9:30, so it's a long time, but I actually think we're maybe overthinking G, and it's just that the subdivision plan, the paper final plan has this, and I believe it already does already, or it will sufficiently at the final plan submission.
signature block and the recording block.
No, actually just lot block, like map tax lot number.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's the
Yes.
colloquialism that is being referenced here.
Yes.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Tim and Natasha will take care of working with you guys to make sure that we get things sorted. And we'll do our best to try and move the process forward for you guys. Again, making no guarantees. But I think we've got to have a commitment that you're going to try and get it in. We'll make a commitment of trying to do the public hearing. And then we'll go from there. So I think we can put this to bed for now.
I have envelopes too, for the abutters. I have them. I have the ones that you left.
And I think we can move on to the next item. Am I okay moving on?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you as well to all the members of the public in the audience this evening.
Race through the rest.
Yes, new business, none, great.
You think, you wish.
Do we have any new business?
We will.
Not this time, but CEO update. Yeah.
Of those yellow pages.
So Natasha and I have been meeting with Shane Brady. Second, third plan for mobile home park. Within the mobile home park overlay. Went and actually walked it with him last week. If he presents what I saw, then I think it's gonna be a pretty good plan. And he expects to have it ready in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
We'll see. I've been meeting with the owners on map 3/16/05, previous subdivision, all subdivision. And they have purchased a lot that currently does not have road frontage. The plan was, it was written on the plan to finish the road from the road needed. They built the road 300 feet in. The CEO at the time and the road commissioner accepted that road. They need to finish the road, additional 300 feet, get the road frontage back. The road that was completed was not to town specs, and I did not find anywhere in the subdivision plan that the planning board had amended or granted a waiver for reduction or specs on the road. So I've requested that they file for an amendment and come back to the board. They have, at the time, there was supposed to be 2 lots in the back, and they've bought both lots and erased the line. So now it's just 1 lot. So it'll be much the same as a narrower road get service in 1 lot. I don't know. I'm hoping, but I'm also going to try to work with them. It was the town's fault that the road was approved before it was ready to be approved. So I will work with them on getting going on their building process before we get this done conditionally. And I have a suggested amendment to the fee schedule. The fee schedule, and the select board is going to vote on this at the next meeting, I believe, or vote on a fee schedule. The for subdivisions, for minor subdivision, the fee schedule states $500 for sketch plan, $500 for preliminary plan, and $1,000 for final plan. The problem is that in the minor subdivision, there is no preliminary plan mentioned. So my proposal is going to be for minor sketch plan, $1,000 and $1,000 for final plan if we want to keep it at the $2,000. And it's the same, I'm going to suggest the same with the amended subdivision. That was a 500 sketch plan, 750 preliminary, and 1,000 for final. I'm going to suggest 1,000 and then 1,250. Okay. Yeah, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah, that appropriately addressed the amount of staff time that's engaged in the process, do you feel?
It addresses me trying to figure out when to collect the fees.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so we have. I started looking at backlot ordinance for revision, so we don't have to approve roads for single lots. And you know, just early in the process, it might be better to revise the subdivision rather than the backlot to do this. I'm going to continue working on that. So it's something I've been working on. One of the thoughts I had was existing lots with 60 feet of frontage would be allowed a back lot, provided that the right of way would only be for one back lot, one building lot. I don't know if we can do that. I'm gonna have to look through state statutes to make sure we can. So the submission deadline is pretty tight. Because now Natasha and I are reviewing before the planning board gets to see the submissions, by the time I get them, there isn't a lot of time to confer with Natasha, and there isn't a lot of time to ask for changes from the applicants.
Yeah.
So it ends up to be a really confusing process. So I'm looking at a way, maybe we can move instead of 2 weeks we can move it up to 3 weeks, and then instead of 4 weeks, 5 weeks for the new applicants.
I would be okay with that because
Yeah.
the way it's happening, you guys, you get it, you review it, we're reviewing it as well, but I'm not getting the professional help that we really need until yesterday
Yeah.
or today,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
doesn't give me a whole lot of time to review the professional's recommendations. And that's not something I can do during the day at all.
Yeah.
So if you guys had more time, that ultimately gives the planning board more time, and then we can be more prepared for the meeting. So I would be 100% on board with that.
Okay.
The deadline?
The deadlines are more state statutes than they are ordinance related. There's some state statutes on timeline from the submittal and public hearings and things like that. So I don't think there's anything in statute about pre-application. So I'm going to look at that.
Okay. For the following, because we set the deadlines in December for the following year. Okay. That's something we'll have to keep in mind.
We can't vote on it sooner than that and change the application deadline.
So I'm also,
We could.
yeah, let me find out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me,
Well, we can repost it online.
yeah. Yeah, I'll take a look at it through the ordinance and statute to make sure we can do what I want to do. And I've also been talking to a second landowner that wants to come in and divide 2 pieces off a property that's already been divided twice, so it'll be a minor subdivision. And he's gone to I've recommended he go to a surveyor. So that should be coming up.
Okay. Anything else, any board member wants to say, any comments? No. Yeah, I was gonna. Yes. Yep.
They were not very happy.
We had 0 time.
Yeah.
I predicted this,
Yeah.
0 time for that. So I apologize to any applicant, but we cannot go through this process, and it's a process, and we can't rush it. So that was the right call not to have them on this month. They'll be on next month, and we'll take care of them.
Send you that.
What's that? No, not gonna happen. Guaranteed. Okay. Any public comment? No. So next month agenda, will be Woodman and final plan for Stetson. Yeah, like I said, if we can do that for them, I'm happy to try, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I think getting the public hearing in the books at least opens up the possibility. Whereas if we don't hold the public meeting, there's no way we can't do anything.
Submittal or accept?
Within. So maybe we can.
Shall be held by the planning board within 30 days after the time of submission of the final plan of approval. Within 30 days after time of submission.
Yeah.
Can you say days?
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be 30 days later, it just says within.
And well, that's kind of the question so we're gonna use submittal being the time that we accept the application moving forward. That submittal date is the time that we accept the applicant, that, say the preliminary plan, we accept that as being complete. Is that gonna be our submittal date? Yeah, but we're talking about submittal dates. What, Natasha, what, you wanna,
Yes, thank you, Todd. So, I think we're all a little bit fatigued and we're perhaps getting a little caught up in some of the phrasing, and I agree that it could be smoother, and that's something, again, we're going through this in real life through the first time with an application. So my take, I will of course be reviewing this more in more detail and with Tim and with the applicant, but if having this hearing is predicated on them submitting a final plan, which we heard from the applicant's agent that they intend to do. So then we're also in tandem moving forward on that premise, going to be scheduling the public hearing as we can. We realize these dates are very tight due to state statute with having the turnaround time, having it be published in the newspaper. So if both parties are making their best effort, and then the public hearing happens in tandem with the discussion kind of similar, akin to tonight, at this time, I'm also reading that in that manner. Again, I will be looking at this more thoroughly with a clear head tomorrow. And
Well, if they send it to us on the 30th of July, is that the submission date? Or
well, I think what Todd was referring to, and we were looking at, I was looking at the verbiage in the prelim plan, formal submission. So this is akin to that, I would say, submission. Completeness is ultimately when the board finds the application complete, is formal submission. Yes, they're submitting some materials by the deadline in advance of the meeting, but formal submission is when the board finds it complete, I would say is kind of how I've seen this operated. In this community, we did that tonight, and in other communities that I work.
you're gonna need to board meet and deliberate, find it complete, and then go into public hearing.
Yeah.
That,
No, that's fine, but we could potentially, why don't we, let's look into it. We can always make adjustments to the layout of the meeting for the next time. And I move that we adjourn the meeting.